Do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And going live in three, two, one.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Accountants Therapy MTD Marathon. I don't even know where to start today. I think first off, I've got to say thank you to every single person that's getting involved today, everybody that's tuning in, everyone that's coming into the chat. A big thank you to all of our guests, to HMRC, to everyone. This is going to be a really great day. We really want to celebrate bookkeepers, accountants, tax advisors, everybody that is involved with MTD. And the main focus is that you can listen in, drop in whenever you want. But if you've got some of those MTD tasks that need to get done, you might have some clients to sign up, less of engagement, you might be doing a client segmentation. Get those jobs done today. Listen in, tune in. You've got the chat. It's already flying in the chat already, guys. This is what we want to see. Get those emojis in and have a chat. But today is all about celebrating our community. And we've got some amazing guests. But without further ado, I would love to introduce you to my partner in crime, the absolute force of nature, an award-winning tax advisor, Robyn Milstead.
What an introduction. Thank you, Tom. This was an idea that Tom came up with less than a month ago. So it has been absolutely amazing to see how the community has really rallied around. So I would just like to repeat those thoughts of thank you to everyone that's got involved, shared, and signed up, and everybody that's joining us today. Time is tight, though, for all of our guests because we've got a half an hour slot for everybody. So without further ado, Kirsty, thank you so much for joining us. Could you start us off by introducing yourself a little bit and telling us a bit about your MTD journey so far?
Hi, yeah, so I'm Kirsty St. John. I'm an ICB bookkeeper. I'm very proud to be one. And I didn't think I was going to be in the MTD journey at all because we weren't self-assessment qualified. But, we did our exams last year and thought, come on, we can join this party. So I do QuickBooks for a lady in Wales that is basically a zero practice. We've got two on the trial in QuickBooks over there. And I've got one of my own that I've got on Sage that he only just falls into the threshold, and he wasn't willing to go to the lovely free software that I was trying to push him to, that we know. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. So yeah, I've got him on Sage. So yeah, I've only got three, so quite small, but the process is fine. Just crack on and get it done.
Brilliant. And something I'm really happy that we are starting this whole marathon with bookkeeper side of things because I genuinely think that this is where bookkeepers are shining
Yeah.
and how you guys are really at the forefront of everything. And that's something I suppose for me, in my MTT journey, I didn't know would happen. I really didn't know a lot about bookkeeping myself. This is not my field. And it's really great to see how awesome like the ICB has been in supporting their members and how bookkeepers have just been complete champions
Well,
of
that was
MTD.
how we picked those two clients because, they were both well-behaved bookkeeping clients doing their stuff monthly anyway. One's VAT registered, one isn't. But, they were basically, we kind of sold it to them to go into the beta trial and said, look, you won't really notice a difference. It's just one more extra report that we need to do. We want to practice on you because you're such well-behaved clients, and then we'll be ready for next year. And they were happy to do it. So
Amazing. So Natasha, hello, welcome. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us. Would you like to do the same? Tell us a bit about you and tell us about your MTT journey so far.
So I'm a bookkeeper also. Run a large community of bookkeepers. My primary thing with MTD is making sure that bookkeeping is correct, and I am going to be a secondary person. So I'm going to do the quarterly updates for my
yeah,
clients, and the accountants are going to do the final submissions. And that has actually enlightened my clients because now they're actually loving the fact that I'm really prompt chasing them for paperwork, and
yeah.
they're able to have cash flows and things like that.
I can
And
see the benefits. Yeah.
yeah, and it's enlightened me with different softwares. Like the other day, we had a really good demo from like Stream Connect that will do these submissions at a relatively low cost. That's just like bank statement imports, and it's just there is so many different software solutions out there that we're actually using it for other things, not just MTD now.
Mm.
It's kind of like opened our eyes to seeing how fabulous these software vendors have jumped to the challenge.
Absolutely. Morning, Suzannah.
Morning. Oh, I've joined too
I think this
early.
is, yeah,
Sorry, I was hoping I could just watch you.
that's fine. If you camera off or join us on another email address, that's fine. I'm sure this is going to happen all day.
Yeah.
But
So I'll turn my camera off, yeah?
if you want.
Yeah.
Um, Ladies, so I would really like to know before you got started with your MTD process, Was there anything that scared you about getting started on that MTD process? Was there anything that has surprised you along the way? And any advice that you can give to anybody, particularly today? The thought is that we're all about forward motion and taking some kind of action. So, is there any advice you can give to people just starting and feeling a bit like I don't really know where to start?
Or if I start with that. So, like I said, self-assessment wasn't a very big part of our business. So I wasn't really in the whole seeing clients once a year kind of process, which I think a lot of the people that are going to fall into this, they might be in that situation. So it the whole process did scare me to start with, and thought I was never going to get involved. But then we were like, do you know what? We've passed our exams. Let's do it. Let's have a little dabble with a couple that fall in. And the sign-up process, was fine when you follow the steps, and it went through, and I'm sure it's even slicker now than it was a year ago when we got them into the beta. But I think Natasha's absolutely correct. It really just highlights that, if the bookkeeping is up to date and you're doing it all the time anyway, then, this is just basically a consolidation of the information that you've already got. And the benefit to getting going is what we need to sell to the clients, and kind of say to them, look, like Natasha's pointed out, that you're going to get better insights by doing it. So yes, it's for HMRC's purposes, but you're going to get the benefit from it. So yeah, it was a bit scary to think of, but once you get going, then, just crack on.
I think that's been a really important message to get across, isn't it? This is the law. This isn't, we've decided that this is going to be what you need to do. HMRC have said this is what needs to happen, but we need to take this as an opportunity and say, okay, well, we've got to do this by law. We've got to have it in place. So why don't we find some benefits out of this and change the way we do things and make this really beneficial to you? So I think that's been my message as well. And honestly, I think bookkeepers are the absolute unsung heroes of most businesses. I see you guys, the work you do is the foundation. The accountants come in at the end. If the bookkeeping isn't good, then the accountant can't do the accounts and the tax, and it just becomes an absolute mess.
Exactly. And I think as bookkeepers, we know those clients inside out anyway, so we're talking to them all the time. So, so for us, it is easy enough to encourage them to do that just one more step, I think Natasha's got a new set of clients to deal with, haven't you, to rope them in?
Yeah, I mean, I have different challenges, but I think my worst thing was trying to get the shoebox clients to actually convert. And that's been quite a challenge. And I've come up with innovative things such as videos and quirky things. And that's really, it's not just the shoebox clients, it's actually accountants as well, who I work with, who do prefer the year-old things where they send out a big bill for the work that we've done as bookkeepers that they can then just convert into the tax things. And to try and convert these accountants as well, change them, it's all about their mind power and their thinking, because they are thinking now, it's really kind of a challenge that they were swamped. And when they look at it, if I'm doing the quarterly returns, they're still going to be doing the same thing at the end. So it's no different to them, apart from the fact that they will have more figures that they can pull forward through the year, like you say, for helping that business really engage with their future decisions.
Yeah.
But the shoebox clients are the funniest, though, trying to get them converted. Yeah.
Your box of shame,
as I call it. Yeah, the box of shame. They have these fancy apps. They have these cameras that can tell selfies and put them all over social media. But taking a receipt is another challenge, definitely.
Having those conversations through the year as well about the what your tax bill is likely to be. I know it's provisional and it doesn't necessarily, some of them take into account other income, some don't, but take it with a pinch of salt. But at least you can have that conversation with them, and then hopefully will be less surprised than getting that tax bill in January and having a day to pay it, So, I mean, it's always surprised to me. Why not do it in April? I did mine the other day, done my tax return, happy. But there is no, hopefully we can get into the stage where we can have that plan with them at 6 months in or 9 months in. Like, are you sure you're not tax planning? Because as a bookkeeper, I'm not allowed to do tax advice, but we can certainly say, this is your tax bill coming, encourage them to put that money aside like we do anyway, but just kind of reinforcing the problem that, it's not your money, put it aside.
So and I feel it's kind of supercharged our role as a bookkeeper as well. Actually having this, how we have a little bit more power over what we're doing for them, which is, it's really sort of empowering.
That's something I was just going to come on to actually, because something that I've said a few times, and I seem to get a few nods whenever I say this, is, as most people know, I don't love MTD. But what I part of the reason for that is because I think many of the benefits that we talk about are actually benefits of good bookkeeping, that MTD doesn't bring particularly anything new to the table other than that stick or that motivation for people to take the bookkeeping seriously. Would you agree with that? Have you seen, I suppose that's exactly what you've just said, Natasha, that you have seen that extra stick, if you want to call it a stick, or motivational thing of there being the legislation there that they've now got to do it, really gives that bookkeeping the place that it should have had for a lot of people anyway.
Exactly. It just highlights how important the bookkeeping is for imperative to get their tax right. The more bookkeeping information we get, the better decisions whoever's doing the tax return, obviously not me, but the accountant doing it, can make the right decision for them. Yeah, or you yourself, Kirsty, depending on what you want to do in your practice. But I feel that it's kind of like a gamification now we've added to it, because we're saying now, let's have a challenge to see how many receipts you can upload that actually match against the transactions in your bank. And I've gamified it with my clients saying, whoa, yeah, you've done that.
Let's have less pictures of the dogs, the cat, the feet. We want the receipt.
Yeah, or the one in the changing room the other day where they're actually trying the trousers on. Yeah, so it's kind of like those random things, but I try and turn it into a challenge for my clients where they really kind of get engaged with it. Like they feel like they're part of the process now, because we're really getting them to make sure that they've got the receipts so they can claim as much as they physically possibly can back that they're legally allowed to. And they love that because they think they're all having one up on against the HMRC now, because they're going to claim everything they possibly can. But we are getting so much more information that's more, rather than going back to them every 5 minutes. You've got this missing, you've got this missing. Yeah. Oh, we've probably got too much information now rather than not enough.
So do you think that MTD will close the tax gap? Or are you seeing that people are getting more expenses together?
I think
exactly.
I think some are getting more expenses together, and some are deciding now it's time to go limited. A high proportion of my clients that were self-assessments have gone the other way now, because they don't want this hanging over them and they'd rather go limited, not realizing probably they're still going to be equally beneficial if they were on self-assessments at the moment. But that's their choices, that's up to them and the accountant's decision. But yeah, I've had a lot of clients just switch over now and not be MTD compatible because they don't want the hassle of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's that they'll find more receipts because they'll be doing it in more real time. We're kind of working from a bank feed and, sending a list of queries via whatever method it might be. And then kind of, it's almost like because there'll be less of that because we're more on top of it, it'll be kind of like, are you okay? You haven't asked me any questions. I'm like, it's because we're up to date, let's, so we can, I think they'll be claiming more expenses.
It's a massive shift, isn't it, in workloads? How far ahead are you planning your workloads now?
Well, I certainly won't be going on holiday on the 7th of August. But no,
it'd be embarrassing if you were on holiday on the 7th of August, wouldn't it?
Thanks. Tom knows I'm on holiday on the 7th of August.
Are you?
So I'll just get that out there right now. Yeah.
I think she's embracing that I'm going to be so on top of things.
Well, exactly. You've got from the, what was it? You can do them on the 1st of July if you're ready, can't you? So,
exactly. Exactly. I'll definitely be ready.
All mine fit into the VAT schedule anyway. So I would have been normally preparing work for VAT returns. And those who weren't matched up with the VAT things, we've actually changed their VAT quarters to match it.
Yes, definitely.
So now there is no kind of distinct difference apart from just producing an extra report to do. And I think that's where the benefit is of having the knowledge of understanding MTD and what is bookkeepers are needing to do. We've able to make those decisions with the clients to make everything a little easier for us as well, not just the clients.
I always used to try and keep those 7 days to myself anyway, and I always used to try and tell the clients VAT returns needed to be in by the end of the month, the 30th or whatever. And it's only one client who was an ex-accountant went, I'm sure it's the 7th. And I went, that's my secret week. You're not supposed to know about that.
It's always the accountants that cause the problems, isn't it? Always got to try and be clever.
But you're right, Tasha. Getting the VAT quarter ones lined up that makes a big difference. And the fact is they're just on a schedule. Most of our clients we're looking at weekly, if not daily, anyway. So it will be smoothing out work for us. So from a
And like I
workflow point
say,
of view,
and our bookkeeping tools have been upgraded so much with the introductions of like kind of a little bit of AI to help our admin side of it, that's enabled us to actually grow and take on these extra responsibilities for our clients, because we're having things that check things. And both Kirsty and I love things like Zen and Connect, which we absolutely champion, which analyzes the bookkeeping, which help us keep on top of things as well. But then there's other things that help us, like data extraction software and things like that, to get the information to us in real time. And the simple rules in that can help us simplify the process for both us and the clients.
and
I love
trying to
that.
encourage the clients to not necessarily send it to us to send to somewhere else. It's like, well,
Yeah.
if you could just kind of skip me and just go direct to where I need it to go, that would be really helpful.
And
How are
unlike
you
me,
guys, like, are you setting really strict guides for your clients, or are you doing a meeting with training? How are you guys getting the education across to your clients?
Well, ours were already good bookkeeping clients, the ones that are in it. So we've not had to do any training, but future ones, then, yes, I think when we take them on as a client, we'll we'll have clear guidelines, and we'll probably have a deadline of, say, the 15th or something. So I've got then a minimum of a week to review it. I'm aiming for like 21st, we're done and dusted, because then there's time to get payroll done afterwards. You've got to fit everything in. Like I say, those 7 days are golden. You're not having them.
yeah. I have nothing after the 15th. After the 15th, it's their responsibility and their mistake. And then everything's processed by the 30th, because obviously, like you say, payroll, and you want that breathing time from the 1st to the 7th for the following period to work out and work on the next lot of stuff that's due.
Yeah, and some people, want reports early. Some clients that are so switched on, they're sending you their bank statements on the 1st, and then, we're on it. You kind of move on to the next month. It's always like, well, that's old hat. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Sounds like you
So
guys have really kind of got it together. That process is
interesting to
working
see
nicely.
how
It's really, really nice to hear.
it will be interesting to see how HMRC holds up with, I'd be curious to know the stats for example, how many VAT returns get submitted on the 7th, for example, and how prepared are HMRC for any outages. I mean, I was trying to do a VAT return at the weekend, and it, I thought something had gone wrong with my QuickBooks. I couldn't log into, and I'm like, what have I gone? I've broken the MTD. Is it the whole not MTD, the VAT thing? And I'm like, is it 18 months? Have I got to remember where to find the setting to renew it? But no, sure enough, it worked Monday morning. But it's like, we don't all work 9 to 5 hours. So quite often we catch up at the weekends because we were busy at Accountex for the 2 days, so we need to.
Absolutely.
Or
We'll do a freedom of
stupid
information
early.
request on that, Kirsty. They're really good questions, actually. What was the sort of the deadline filing? We'll make a note of that, Robyn, and put that in, and we'll let you have that, Kirsty, when it comes in.
Yeah. Because I think having robust, it's all very well, like you say, this is a whip that they're cracking, but, and appreciate there's no penalties this first year. But the point is, if their systems let us down, like yesterday, I had a 50-minute, I did it on a web chat thing rather than on holding on the music, but I had it because then I could get on with some other stuff while I could keep an eye on the bing bong machine. I was 5th in the queue, took 50 minutes to get to someone who needed to allocate a payment. Client had made their PAYE wrong. Firstly, he'd paid the wrong amount using the wrong reference, and then he did a top-up payment, still wrong, but with the right reference. And I could see them both sitting there unallocated. And it literally, by the time I got through security and, the man sorted it out, took him 5 seconds and went, yeah, fine, sorted. I'm like, if things like that we could do ourselves, it would save the HMRC queue. Because what else would I have had to do? I'd have had to phone. So it'd be interesting to systems as a whole need to be improved, I think.
I think that's a concern that a lot of people have, isn't there? Because it's not like we see these systems working brilliantly in other ways, exactly as you've just described. I think that's one of my concerns. Hopes? Am I allowed to say burn the computers yet? Are we too early in the day?
Right, who had 20 minutes in the sweepstake for how quickly Robyn would be trying to get the systems broken? I had an hour, in all fairness. I thought we'd get to the hour mark before you first said it.
In my defence, as you now know, I'm on holiday on the 7th of August. Otherwise, I would be going, let's nobody submit before then. Let's
all try and break it.
One day. Let's see what happens.
How many have you got in, Robyn?
My first round is about 100, and I think the second round will be about 100, maybe more. We've just completed an acquisition And that's so I
Right.
had 50 to 70, and the acquisition has around 30 coming in. So,
Wow.
yeah, challenging amount. And
How
I think
about you, Tom? Have you
yeah.
got some to do as well?
I definitely don't have 100. I've got quite most of mine are going to come in the 30, but I looked at it in February. I think I had 15, and for some unknown reason, all the clients I've been telling about incorporation for years, suddenly in March
They
2026, all
wanted.
incorporated. So I'm down to like single digits now
Ah,
for MTD in the first cohort, which is great. And
that
I've actually got I've taken on an amazing colleague, Frankie, purely because I see that I'm going to need to have that support for my,
yeah.
it's only me really. So taking Frankie on, and I think we're going to be looking to take on more sole traders and landlords because we
Yeah.
really like working with small businesses, and that's going to be our focus. So we're really excited to get cracking with that.
And once you've got the processes in place, I mean, it's like the same when we take on a bookkeeping client. I'm sure Natasha will agree with this. That beginning bit when, you've got kind of a catch up and it's a can of worms and you have to undo it and it looks worse. And then suddenly, you get a few bank recs done and it's all nice and tidy and that client doesn't owe you anymore because actually they did pay. You just counted your
Yeah.
sales twice. That kind of unpickling that we do. And then you go, but that takes time. And you can't be doing that with every new client that comes in. Once you've got them up and
Yeah.
running, they're like, right, they're in the normal flow channel. You can only kind of do with a few of those at a time.
I think that's been the hard part for me with the unrepresented, is that you're taking on someone who's done their own tax return in the past,
Yeah.
and then you're trying to explain to them, look, this is how we need to do it moving forward, and I need this bit of paperwork and I need that, and they're completely shell shocked. They just don't.
But
They're not
it's
aware of
also
how we do things.
they also think that it's a huge pain in the arse to change how they're doing it as well. That's
Yeah.
kind of the problem, isn't it? Is that you're going, no, no, this is actually helpful to get it right because then you're going to get it right. But their
Mm.
response is, you're asking me for more stuff. Why are
Yeah.
you asking more questions? That's the
Mm.
general feeling, isn't it? Oh,
And recognizing that perhaps a lot of these people are, trading type, whatever. They're not in an office in front of a computer. It's not a 2-second job for them to find that bit of paper, which, for me and Tash to, interrogate our computers because we're both sat at our desks all day, every day. It's a very different mindset, I think.
Yeah.
it's true. I,
I think we're going to find ones who will resist completely to it as well. That's the problem, and we're going to get the ones who maybe have a bit of CIS thrown into it to be a bit more challenging as well, and things like that. So there's going to be the anomalies that appear as MTD grows and the kind of threshold lowers and things like that. So as soon as we can get a fine tune that works for us and our practice moment, unfortunately, we're going to have to shift clients who don't actually meet those needs because we can't help everybody, but there'll be another accountant or bookkeeper that can help them elsewhere. And this is where we have to be so blinkered that we can't adapt the process completely just for one person.
Yeah.
And we have to think, well, we have served these clients this well and it works. If that other person, new person comes and it doesn't actually meet the criteria, we're going to have to say no. And that's where disengagement is going to be our favourite friend over the next few years. I'm sorry, but it really is. I think we have to protect the clients we've got, the ones that work with
Yes.
our own systems, to make sure that we are at least giving the 100% we can to those and fulfilling our basically duties.
We
Yeah. I
might
mean,
have a
that
front runner
loyalty.
for quote of the day already, Natasha.
Oh,
I think that is good. That is a fantastic quote for the day already.
okay, here you go.
But
But I
I
think
think,
loyalty pays. I've had one
yeah.
of my clients currently running a 23 million pound company. But I started with him when he was a sole trader, because I met him out of hours, like 15 years ago. He was, well, I won't say what he's doing, but, I was able to meet him in the evening because that suited what trade he was doing at the time. But that loyalty that you build up with a customer, he's now onto a different limited and whatever else. But that's the kind of loyalty that we show to our clients, and we expect them to show to us. That it does make you more sticky as well when you've got the clients and they can start to see the benefits. Then they don't need to go elsewhere.
Because obviously next year is going to go bonkers even more with the threshold going lower. So we're going to get people come out of the woodwork that think, oh, I don't have to do this, I'm exempt, and all of a sudden they're going to have a clangor that actually no.
Yeah.
So those clients who then come on board and they don't actually fit the criteria, like I say, you're going to have to be so blinkered, and because it is such a quick turnaround of information that you're going to have to do, they're going to have to make sure that probably those clients now should be doing the bookkeeping now the same as the others, and having like the no more than monthly bookkeeping, because otherwise they're going to get into a place where they're going to get so far behind the others are already in it. And this way we can have that impact starting now for the ones who are going to happen. I always remember Chris Downing and his favourite roadmap of timeline and things like, and segregating your clients. And that's always stuck in my head, because it's always the things I've got. This is stage 1, this is stage 2, this is stage 3, which I think I'm actually going to go limited and leave me, but they're there. And this is, and then this is the vampire ones that are going to get disengaged. But it's that kind of mentality. You have to be brutal, because remember, it's our practice, not theirs. And ultimately, we're providing a service for them, regardless of what the HMRC think we can do. So
trying to remember
superheroes. Yeah.
Oh, it's hard when you're starting out to say no, but honestly, that power to say, you don't fit me. You're not doing what I told you to do. Mr. MTD in the chat.
I know, Mr. MTD has entered the chat. Yeah.
Didn't even have to say it 3 times.
Yeah.
I saw Craig, Chris. I keep calling him Craig for some reason. I keep Chris. Saw Chris at the Sage Roadshow in Exeter last year, and I said to him at Accountex last week, his speech about the importance of client segmentation and that roadmap massively changed how I approached 2025, and I had to thank him for it. It was brilliant.
I went to the Leicester one, and that's where it blew my mind, because I was going, as I knew I wasn't going to be doing the final returns, but I felt as a bookkeeper, that's it. I felt as a bookkeeper, I needed to know as much information, because I'm still servicing the clients that I will have to do the quarterly returns. I wasn't planning on doing the quarterly returns. I only actually turned up to the Leicester event to be more knowledge of it. But now I'm going to be doing the quarterly returns, because obviously HMRC allowed us to do the quarterly returns ourselves. It was a game changer actually going to an event like that was strictly MTD guidance of how to revise our practice to meet their criteria.
Yeah, we did that MTD day in London with ICB did one in December, and then we did it online because it was a good success. And I think that's when, Chris made this overnight, like he does.
He stays up all night doing work, doesn't he? Making presentations.
No, well, we're all at Accountex. We all saw the super size of the team they had there. I reckon they do all the hard work. Chris just rocks up on the day, doesn't he?
Yeah, probably. No, but it's things like that where software companies have gone out their way to support us in things like that. I mean, the other day there was some great little cards came from freeagent that make you think and get your processes right. When they've gone out of the way to support you like that, it's a game changer for us, because they're taking the responsibility of this change as well, which I think is brilliant.
And people, like ICB got seriously involved with HMRC and said, look, we need this second agent status, because that's, like facilitating Natasha to be that second agent to, means that it can get done. We don't have to, there's no way it would have worked, would it, with only one agent and the swapping agent thing? That's just not, it's hard enough as it is getting agent status properly thing done in time, isn't it? Without just thinking of 3 I applied for last night where the client hadn't had the letter, and it's like, I'm sure you've had the letter, but we'll request a fresh letter for you. Not MTD, something else, but
I had one the other day. She said, look, I'm not really sure what this MTD is. And I said, all right, well, why is that then? I said, have you gone through the emails I've sent you, the videos you sent? Yeah, I really appreciate that. But I've had this letter about making tax digital. And I was like, yeah, that is the things I've been telling you over and over again about. Do you want to sit down? I've offered it 3 times to have that meeting. So now I think I'm just going to ring all of them and say, look, I've sent you all the communications. I am sitting you down now. This is it. Like this is how you.
And this could be your chance. You're in. We'll do it properly, or you're not.
Yeah.
Are you going to charge for that, Tom? Are you going to charge?
Do you know? At the beginning, I thought I was, but I think I'm not. To be honest, simply because I just want to get this done now. I just want to get it done. Oh, and it's on 9:30.
9:30.
Nice.
So quick. Hi, Lindsey. Hopefully, can you hear us?
Yeah,
I hope so. So,
oh, seamless
Hello.
transition. 9:30. Fantastic. Thank you.
Sorry
guys.
about being
Welcome.
super keen before.
No, super keen is
No need
better
to
than not.
apologise.
Hey? Welcome,
right,
ladies.
I can hear everyone now.
You can hear now. That's good. Brilliant. Welcome. Before we get rolling on a handover, we've got a special guest in the chat as well, haven't we? Can we just intro her? Tom, tell us.
Yeah. So, just for anybody that is looking in the chat, if you see a lady called Gemma Rawcliffe in there, Gemma is the one that she's an absolute superstar. She's kept Craig and Sam under wraps for the last few years. She is the head of the MTD events team. She's also been the senior policy lead for a while. You would have probably seen Gem at Accountex and Fab and all the other events. She's a really lovely person, very knowledgeable, great at her job. She's in the chat the entire day today. So it's not just me and Robyn. She's there with her team at HMRC. So if anything kicks off when you're signing your clients off, you're not really sure, obviously go to HMRC first, but she is in the chat, seeing the feedback, reporting it back to the team. So it's great that she's on board. Thank you, Gem. And Gem is on the session this afternoon at 3 o'clock with Rebecca Bennyworth. So that'd be a great session.
She would have heard me moaning about my web chat 50-minute, 5-second response. Oops.
Probably noting that already.
It was a man called Stephen. It was very nice.
Like that. Welcome, Lindsey and Suzannah. Thank you very much for joining us. We were just Suzannah, you've been listening anyway, but we were just in the part of the conversation. We were really talking about the client communication side of things. Suzannah, first of all, should we start with you? If you can just introduce yourself and tell us about your MTD journey, and then maybe we'll continue that kind of conversation. How have you found communications with your clients have been going? And then Lindsey, we'll come to you.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Suzannah Whelan. I own and run my practice, Sinclair Whelan Bookkeeping, which I set up about 17 years ago. So I've been going for quite a while. I've got a mixture of clients, so limited companies, landlords, sole traders, and I've got about 7. I think I've got 7 who are starting MTD now. And what was the second part of your question about communication? So I started the client communication about MTD a long time ago. I was ready for this the first time around before it got delayed, because to me, as a bookkeeper, I could really see the benefits of doing the bookkeeping all year round and not having these sort of bottlenecks at year end or clients phoning you up mid-year asking you a question about their business which you couldn't possibly answer because they weren't going to send you anything for 6 months or so. So I had all my clients ready.
Do you not have that crystal ball?
Well,
were you not issued with one of those?
Yeah, my psychic powers are lacking, unfortunately. So I was ready quite a long time ago. So I've been banging on about MTD for a long time to my clients. And by getting them ready early, that they've already seen the benefits, and they are liking having everything up to date. They're finding it much easier, much less stressful, just sending me stuff like every couple of days even, they're all on receipt capture. They're doing that regularly. They're doing their invoices now in the software rather than how they, some of them used to do handwritten invoices and post them. And
I love it like that.
The dark ages.
Get my boiler serviced in January, and every year he knows I'm going to ask him about his self-assessment. And then finally the bill comes. I recognise the logo, so I know what software it's done on. No, it gets posted to me, comes about March time, and with no payment link, no nothing, and I'm like, just pay it by bank. But it's like, honestly, dark ages, yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah. So all of mine are finding that benefit now. They really are finding it so much more easy. They haven't lost half of the receipts at year end. They haven't got to spend the whole weekend trying to get everything together and then finding that the receipts, half the ink has come off and you can't actually read this blank bit of paper. So that is the positive side of MTD. Obviously the quarterly filings and everything, some people are viewing that more as like a administrative burden, but it's the bookkeeping part was, I think, the challenge, the changing the habits of those clients. And I have found that whilst clients were reluctant to do it, some of them, they've actually all say to me now, oh my God, it's so much better. It's so much less stressful.
That's brilliant.
It's a brilliant result. And Lindsey, it's our pleasure to have you with us this morning. Do you want to please introduce yourself as well? Because you're going to come at this from a slightly different angle. So tell us a bit about your MTD journey, which won't be a practice one.
So I'm Lindsey Wicks, and I'm from ICAEW. Just to give a bit of background to myself, so I started out working for an accountant back probably about 1995, 1996 in my university holidays. Very much a small practice. I then went on to train in a national firm, but in accounting and audit to start with. So I used to do all of those records and have the clients with all of their, very much we used to have the paper extended trial balance that you folded into a folder rather than it was revolutionary if we started using a spreadsheet. We used to share a laptop between the team. So yeah, I can remember all of those paper records. In fact, I grew up in a small business, so my parents were very much paper based up until they retired back about 14 years ago. My dad was a coal man, so it was not only paper based, it was coal dust fingerprints over everything that I got from my parents. But I've been with ICAEW, so I moved into tax about 2000, so well over a quarter of a century ago now. I'm a chartered accountant and chartered tax advisor. Moved into tax, then moved into a technical team. My husband would say I went into semi-retirement about a decade ago. I hit 40, had a midlife crisis.
Around the same time that MTD was originally thought
Yeah,
of.
exactly. And I had a couple of small businesses back then. So I started out, I was going to be a curtain maker. I was going to do something completely different. But also I knew people in the industry and they encouraged me to keep on writing. So I was also carried on writing about tax. So I had a tax writing business and a curtain making business. And I was actually really worried because I was quite happy with my spreadsheets and doing my tax return using HMRC's OTRSA system. And yeah, I had those early worries about what was this going to look like for my business. But anyway, I went back into the employed world. I don't have any self-employment anymore, so it's not a worry for me, but it was a worry.
Sounds like you were getting out of MTD by going back into employment to me.
Yeah, well, that might have been a drive. No, it wasn't. I joined ICAEW. So to start with, I joined Krona back in 2018 as a staff member, but then an opportunity came up at ICAEW, so I moved to ICAEW in 2019, and I've been there ever since. But in terms of MTD and ICAEW, we obviously had the lovely Caroline Miskin, who I work with. From when I joined ICAEW, she was our MTD queen, and she got us and our members into a really good place, I think, in terms of the guidance that she wrote. And I double-handed with her for a couple of years in the background until she retired last summer. So, in terms of my perspective now, it's about helping our members to get ready for MTD, whether that's guidance, webinars. I can't believe how many Q&As we have now. When I update our Q&A guide, it's well over 20 pages in Word before it goes on the website. So yeah.
Wow. And you are often the one on ICAEW webinars answering a lot of the Q&As, aren't you?
I am, yeah. So whether it's our own webinars, so we do our own technical webinars, but then we also host ones from software providers as well, and I sit in the background just in case there's any technical questions there. So I let them I'll answer the questions about their software because I haven't got a clue.
So if anyone is watching now with lots of technical questions, now's your time. Go, guys, in the question answer box. We'll get into on it. Thank you. I would love to know from all four of you. So we're getting to the point where we're going to soon say goodbye to Kirsty and Natasha. But I'd love to know, particularly from some of the things you've been saying, Kirsty and Natasha, that how much time do you think you've spent on MTD?
Not enough. I think because there's been that many ups and downs with MTD, there's been different things. Are we going to have a second person able to? Are we going to have one? Is it going to happen? Isn't it going to happen? I still think we haven't had enough time to kind of, because we're still waiting for the final submission, aren't we, at the moment?
Yes.
And everybody's waiting for that. And I think
going to be asking some people about that.
Yeah. So I think that's the kind of thing we are now in a thing that probably we hadn't had enough time because we now are waiting for the final one, but we still got the old style self-assessment to finish first or the paperwork. So it's kind of like, it's that kind of limbo thing. I think though there's been that much publications in online, going to all the shows like Fab, Accountex and that, where they've been given really good support, I think a lot of people still have left it to the last minute because they didn't think it was going to happen.
I agree. Like Suzannah said, we've been ready, for years.
Yeah.
We were kind of ready first time around. Like I said, when it was happening originally, I wasn't going to be doing it because I wasn't self-assessment qualified. And that second thing, the second user thing hadn't been quantified and sorted at the time. But now it has. There's absolutely nothing stopping the bookkeepers doing all that the quarterly ones, even if they can't do the year end. But yeah, I think the actual sign-up process of it is not too complicated. It's the segmenting and the educating the clients, because like we said, if they're already good bookkeeping clients, then this is going to be fine. It's the ones, what did you call them, the vampire shoebox people, that it's the education of those, I think, that's the harder part.
So I think I've actually spent too much time on MTD. As you can see, I'm quite a keen person. I start early, so I spent too much time on it beforehand, and then it was delayed, wasn't it, for a couple of years, and that was really frustrating. But although I think that time wasn't wasted, because I had already by that point managed to convert some of those shoebox annual clients onto software and got them into the habits. But yeah, it has been a lot of time, but it has meant less of a rush. And I think for me, because I'm in practice on my own, it's just me and my practice and a little bit of admin support. But I was very conscious of not wanting to be overwhelmed with too much change in one hit and getting those clients to make those changes. So, but it has been a lot of time.
Lindsey, how about from an ICAEW point of view? Has it been an enormous time drain for the ICAEW, or has it been more of a good thing to have the opportunity to support your members?
Great to support our members, but it has taken a lot of time. So we've had events over the years. We did invest quite a lot of time up before the delay. So we'd got webinars lined up, we'd got various things lined up ready to go, and we had to rethink everything that we were doing back then. So at times it does feel like you can have a week where all you're doing is MTD, but I am also really busy doing other stuff as well, like agent registration, sanctionable conduct and all of that. I've done an ethics webinar this week talking about the changes to ICAEW's Code of Ethics and PCRT. Those all fall within my remit too. So it's been a really busy time for us, but that also means it's a really busy time with lots of change for agents too.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's the bit that I find I could quite easily spend with the 100 clients or so that I've got coming in. I could spend my entire working week just preparing them and sorting that out. But we've got 1,000 tax returns to do at the same time, so quite tricky from a workflow point of view. Conscious of time here, let's say a big thank you to Kirsty and Natasha for joining us for our first slot. You kicked us off, yay, we're running, we're good. Kirsty and Natasha, do you have any final comments that you'd like to say? Perhaps maybe I'd really like to hear, what is your next step on MTD prep? What's your next action?
So my next action, I shall be quizzing the Sage people to find out when I will be able to do my 5th return, because it just keeps saying coming soon.
I heard Chris is somewhere in the chat.
Yes, I had pinned him down at Accountex, and I think that was pretty much the answer. And I even rang the chat on Susanna's recommendation. I rang the chat about something, and then other than that, just keeping the process going. I don't think I've got anyone coming in next year. She would have been, but she's closing her business, so I think I'm all right. And then I'm kind of watching, and I shall be joining again just as a watcher shortly.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for joining us as a panelist, and we look forward to seeing you in the chat a bit later. Natasha?
I think I want to start challenging those box of shames clients. I want to prove how simple it is to actually use data extraction software, how they don't fade, how they don't go out the windows when they've got the windows open. And I think, obviously, I love gamification. Like I said, I can challenge them to make sure that they can actually snap their receipts quicker than they can snap a selfie.
So we do have a question on that, Natasha.
Okay.
Do you have a scoring system for your gamification of that?
I do. So out of each, there's a percentage. If they get above 85% of match receipts things, then I do send them a little gift for clients.
Oh,
And usually it's something silly like a selfie holder or something, for their phone. As just a quirky thing. But I kind of make a percentage each month where if they can get above 85 ones, it's usually for the lads in the CIS kind of brackets, and they love being gamified.
I want to be a client. How can I join this?
I kind of do that. I do that in my community. We have in our Maverick Revolution, we have gamification in there, and it really
We're going to have a
works.
Zen and challenge, aren't we?
Yeah. We're going to set up a Zen and Connect challenge. We've got a leaderboard challenge already in there. And I just think the silly things is I bought a bundle of these little selfie sticks that if they win above the 85%, they get a selfie stick and they absolutely love it. So there we go.
Absolutely top idea.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
What a way to start the day. Starting off strong with the bookkeeping community. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Say goodbye now.
Right,
We're on to the next
See you
adventure.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
Right. So,
What a start to the day.
yeah, we've got 15 minutes until our next guests come and overlap. What would be a next sensible
I've
question?
got one. I really want to talk to Suzannah about the work that she's done with the Ask the Accountant podcast, because you have been we've all been following the journey. I mean, how has that been for you guys? You've been one of the front runners for MTD information for a long time now. How's that been?
It's been really good for me because I I took it as a challenge to, well, if I'm going to be doing this, I really need to know my stuff. So it's forced me to get into all the nitty gritty and the detail. And I work across different softwares anyway. So even with this, I might only be a small practice and I might only have 7 clients going into MTD now, but I'm using 3 different softwares for that. So it has really helped me with getting the detail and knowing all those sort of different intricacies and all the different nuances and things like, with joint landlords and stuff like that. So yeah, I've really loved doing that.
It's quite an amazing achievement to be involved with something like that, isn't it? I mean, the webinars, keeping people up to date, being part of that community, it's fantastic. But when you first started doing those, how different do you think MTD is now to what it was when you first started, like rules wise and energy and all of that?
I think obviously it's really kind of gained pace as we've gone along, because we started that, I'm trying to think when we did the first episode, it was probably getting on for a year ago, perhaps. And obviously we've got more information. We've been on the betas and stuff like that. So definitely it's gained pace. And I think when we started, I think there were still quite a lot of people in the community saying, no, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bother till the last minute because it probably get cancelled again. And so I think, attitudes obviously have changed in that time as people realise it's not going away. But also we have tried to approach it from a positive angle, because yes, it is more of a burden, but there are benefits to it, just both for our clients, but also for us as practices. Once we're on top of everything, it should hopefully spread the work throughout the year a bit more. And yes, there are. It's not just pressing a button. There are more. There is more work involved, but we can charge for that, and we get the extra touch points with our clients. We build closer relationships. Like Kirsty said, we become more sticky. They rely on us more.
Absolutely.
But equally, we can then give more value.
And Lindsey, how are you finding the communication and the information side from the ICAEW? Obviously, you guys are delivering that information, and people like Suzannah and myself and Robyn have been receiving it. What's the journey been like for you in the ICAEW with getting that information out, particularly when HMRC haven't necessarily been as forthcoming with information as we would all hope?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good. We've shared what we can and when we can. We have always had a really good relationship with the team at HMRC, and I think HMRC recognises sometimes that it can't share information as quickly as we can. So at the moment, we've got a professional bodies issues escalation group. So it's led up by Emma Rawson from ATT, but we all get together, we discuss our questions that we've come across. We look at how to, do we know the answer between us already? So do we have that knowledge that we can share between professional bodies? And if not, then we can ask HMRC, and HMRC comes back to us with an answer, and we can probably get that answer out there quicker than HMRC can in terms of the restrictions that you have in terms of publishing on gov.uk. So we were doing that on a body by body basis, and we have been for years now, but actually having that now to be able to do that together, because there's probably more questions now that we've gone live. So yeah, that's working well at the moment.
Yeah, it's nice to see that we are slowly seeing is our partnerships in MTD. Do I include dividend income in the calculation for qualifying income? It's nice to see those questions are dying down now, and it's more how am I going to implement this? What does it mean for the letters of engagement? It's really good to see that knowledge shift has changed now in the industry, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but everyone's on a different place in their journey, and I think it's nice. I see it on the WhatsApp group that people are still very patient when those questions do arise, because some people are touching it for the first time, aren't they?
There's
Absolutely.
no such thing as a silly question.
No,
Absolutely.
there isn't, and it's been thing for me as well is that people there's so much information out there. It's been hard, I think, for people over the last 12 months to not get wrapped up in the information that was available 2 years ago, because they've read an article and they're like, oh, this person, I trust this person. But the information when they wrote that 2 years ago was correct. And then keeping up to date all of the time. It's been, with the therapy chat, it's been every day, hundreds of messages a day, because it's constantly evolving. So I think for a lot of people, it was that I can't give up my day job to become an expert in MTD. I've just got to wait until it's here, and then I know that information's ready.
Pretty sure you just became an MTD expert while running your day job, Tom. So,
yeah, at the sacrifice of any personal life.
Yeah,
that's what life is like for us. And that's something that we touched on in our talk at Accountex, isn't it? That one of the biggest pain points is just the sheer volume of information that's out there, and how important it is to zone in on one or two places for information that you can rely on. So particularly ICAEW, we can trust that the information that is coming from you, Lindsey, is true and correct and has been checked, etc. And then we're going to say, if you guys, that anyone listening now is not in accountants therapy, come and join us for that sort of rolling conversation. But it has been very difficult for people to block out the noise. As soon as you start typing MTD into anything, the algorithm starts going, you like MTD, right? I'm going to show you every single influencer's point of view on MTD, and then it starts to get quite overwhelming. Suzannah, maybe this is a question for you. Where has your main point of information come from on MTD?
A combination of things. I mean, I read all the kind of government legislation, obviously, like the HMRC legislation. My professional body, Institute of Certified Bookkeepers, have been really good at keeping us up to date. I think the software vendors have been quite good as well. Obviously from a more kind of software perspective, and then, like you say, lots of groups. Picking the right groups, obviously, to be involved with and to listen to, because there's so much misinformation out there on some of the Facebook groups. You think, God,
what's the best bit, both of you, or all three of you, best bit of misinformation you've heard on MTD? By best, I mean the worst bit of misinformation, right? What's the one that gets you?
So much, so much. I'm on like a landlord group on Facebook, and some of that I just read for fun, because it's just like,
that's so awful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, people were all thinking that that the tax is going to have to be paid quarterly, which obviously we know may be brought in at some point, but people were saying that was happening now. getting, and then it's the old confusion with the payments on accounts and people just sort of saying, then they're making us pay it before we've even earned it. And you're like, no, that isn't what payment on account is, and stuff like that. But and then obviously the confusion about what income is being brought in and whether it's profit or turnover. There's been so much of that.
Yeah. So many different things. I know what Tom wants to say. What's your big bit of misinformation that you hate, Tom?
No, I was going to say actually on that point, I think the profit versus turnover thing. I've got to say, I think that's with HMRC because the wording is so easily misinterpreted. We understand what the difference is, but Joe Bloggs doesn't. And I think that's one. I see MTD as this is the biggest change in 30 years. No matter who is in charge of MTD and rollout, there's going to be things to learn from that. So we should go, right, that communication, that point did slip a few people up. How can we change that in the future? I think that's the bit for me. And yeah, I've already put the hashtag in. Spreadsheets are still sexy, guys. I am so sad to see so many people going, can't use spreadsheets anymore. Not allowed to use your spreadsheet you've used for 20 years and you're really comfortable with. It's still there. But I will say on the flip side, a lot of my clients have moved away from spreadsheets and they are much happier. But yeah, here we go. Tom Bingo is live. Spreadsheets are still sexy. There we go. That's my one. What about you, Lindsey?
I was going to say it probably is around what software you need, also what gets included, what's in and out, the profits versus turnover, and you can kind of understand because we think about VAT as being a turnover-based tax, don't we? We think about income tax as being a profits-based tax. So yeah, it's really, I have made the point recently that you can kind of understand where that misinformation comes from, or that misunderstanding that people and I think that with spreadsheets as well, one of the things that has got to me recently that I hadn't really, it's while cumulative reporting for quarterly updates is going to be really good, I think that there is a risk that people will think I need a spreadsheet for quarter one, a spreadsheet for quarter two, not that I need a spreadsheet that goes throughout the whole year because each quarterly update overrides the previous one. So, quarter two is effectively quarter one plus quarter two. So, I think that those are the things that I think that there's still risks of misinformation out there.
It's going to be a learning experience, isn't it? And I'm conscious of time. I just actually wondered if either of you had a question for one another.
I was going to ask, what obviously I come at it from a bookkeeping angle, and as a bookkeeper, I do offer the whole service to my sole traders. I am qualified for self-assessment, but I have always been trying to encourage them to do the bookkeeping throughout the year. Do you think a lot of your members, and I guess this goes for you two as well as accountants, my impression from speaking to a lot of accountants and practices is that they are worried about the overwhelm of doing the bookkeeping, because perhaps where they had annual self-assessment clients, there might have been a large proportion of those who did their own bookkeeping, and you were just filing, or your members file the self-assessment and do the adjustments and stuff. So it was just interesting to know the kind of proportion of clients where, is there a shift where that's changing with those existing clients? Are more of them going to want you to do the bookkeeping? Are they going to want you to do the quarterly returns? Are they still going to do it all themselves and you just do the year end? How's that going to work?
Shall I go first on that with my 100?
Sorry.
Because for me, it's a real mix. So, and that's probably the thing that has been one of the most difficult things, is that I couldn't just, or I didn't feel that I could, with such a significant number, go, this is the only route that I'm going to allow you to take. And that means that my process has to be split into lots of different ways. I've been quite vocal about one of the big mistakes that I made was letting people choose their own software and onboard themselves and try and look after it themselves. And that has not only meant that people have chosen a software that I don't particularly like using and my team don't like using, but also that we've got multiple softwares in play as well. And then added to that, I've got quite a lot of my clients who are going to deal with the quarterly updates themselves. And for me, that's actually been a better part of my process. And I think that that will be a more successful route for most of my clients doing it themselves. Will I need bookkeeping support? I mean, we have a bookkeeping department. Perhaps that's been one of the more tricky things, is to work out how the process should work between our departments as a slightly larger firm, to go, okay, well, not only do I have to consider my capacity and my team's capacity, I have to work out whether or not our bookkeeping team can do that, and how we integrate them with us, because we've traditionally really been not completely separate but quite separate. So I think this is a very long-winded way of saying panic, no idea what I'm doing. Can I have another 2 years to prepare?
So I think it's harder for you guys because I think like the difference in our practices, you've got a lot more unknowns within that with the clients. And that I think as well, there may be clients who say they're going to do it all themselves. Yeah. And then on the 6th of August, they haven't done it and they panic and they phone you and they want you to do it.
It's fine because I'll be on holiday then. But absolutely.
Very sensible.
Exactly that. And actually that's part of my strategy, if you like, that the thought that I'm going to let them do it themselves and then see if they get themselves in trouble, because then they will value what I'm going to do for them a little bit more. Really I'm conscious we haven't said hello to Sam yet.
Yeah,
hi, Sam.
Hi, morning everyone. Are you okay?
Good morning. Good
morning. Welcome, Sam. I'll tell you,
thank you.
I would push that question over to Sam as well, to be honest, Suzannah. I think that's a great question. And then we'll go back to Lindsey on the answer as well.
So did you hear the question, Sam? We can repeat.
I literally just missed it, but
it was a very rambly question.
But if you just ask it again.
It was very rambly, but it was along the lines of, in your practice, are you seeing are the majority, how is it going to work with your clients? Are the majority going to do the quarterly filings themselves and the bookkeeping themselves? Are they going to do the bookkeeping and you do the quarterly filing, which means presumably you're going to need to check it? Or are they going to still be like the normal old style annual self-assessments where they do everything throughout the year, you take their figures and you do their self-assessment? And have you seen a shift in, has MTD changed any of that?
Yeah, so we've seen a real mix. I kind of struggled initially knowing how to position our services. So my first thought was that we'd hit it exactly how we do VAT. So we have some clients that do everything, including the submission, some that we do what we call a check and submit service for, which is like that middle ground where, they're doing their bookkeeping, but they're not confident to hit the button and they want it all checked. And then obviously the third group where we do everything, they're not interested, they just want to pay us to sort it out. Yeah. So that's how I was going to kind of go with MTD. But it was the pricing that put me off that kind of 3 staggered tier, to be honest, because I was like, we don't have the scope for the pricing for all of this, like, differences.
There's not much meat on the bones, is there, with it either?
Exactly, yeah. Whereas VAT clients often bigger fees, easier to kind of get that check and submit middle ground in. So actually I'd say the only middle ground service we've got is where clients are using the software themselves, but really only for sales invoicing. So they're happy to take on that bit, because naturally it would seem a waste if we didn't let them have access to the software because we were doing MTD. But, I act for a lot of people in trades, and to get them doing actual digital invoicing is a big step forward. Yeah. And being able to like email their clients and then add a click here to get paid button and all that good stuff that we know and love. Brilliant, yeah. So we're letting some of them do that, where they're just going to do the sales invoicing. But generally speaking, it's either they're doing it all, so they're doing their MTD, they're doing the bookkeeping, they're doing the submissions, and then at the year end, we'll see what we get, because that's going to be fun. Or we're doing it all, and actually they can send us whatever they want, really, because if we're doing it all, naturally, we've got some clients that will use a receipt tracking app. They're happy to zap, receipts over to us and everything like that. Some, like I said before, are happy to do invoicing. Others, they want to continue using the manual cash book. They want to continue doing things that they've done. Some of them have been trading probably longer than I've been alive. Like I've got there's two I can think of that are in MTD on our MTD list. One of them's I think he said like 2 years off retiring. you know, and
Yeah.
he's a decorator, and he's been doing this for that long, kind of like 40 odd years, and he has a red cash book, and that's fine. So we just left him alone and said, look, you're going to have to pay me a bit more money, but my team will sort this out for you. You just need to bring it in quarterly. And even that is quite a big shift for him, bringing it in quarterly. So yeah, a real mixed bag, really. And I think it's been a difficult one, and mainly because of the pricing. It's not like exactly what you said. It's not that meaty. So to find that like middle ground is quite
hard,
difficult.
isn't it? Yeah.
I think you're completely right there. I have exactly the same someone that's just approaching retirement and does an absolutely beautiful job of some paper records, and it just feels really horrible to be. He asked me about going on board with software, and we got quite far down the process of showing him, and he just went, "Do I actually really need to do this?" I went, "No, we had originally agreed to bridge, so let's just bridge, because you're doing a great job as it is." And those are the clients where it's difficult. If you try and just do one process, pushing everyone down that process feels difficult, but then it's easier for pricing. Yeah, but then it's easier for pricing if you're just doing one thing.
I've got a client who is in this, he's now live for MTD, and he's over pension age. He's a self-employed carpenter, has always, has been going longer than I've been alive, definitely. And he was quite nervous about software and everything. But I started him a couple of years ago, and just got him using a software where he could do his invoices, and then showed him how to do the photos of the receipts. He's not doing any more than that, but he has really taken to it like a duck to water. So I think they do surprise you sometimes. They might be sort of reluctant, but if you do a little bit of hand holding at the beginning, which is difficult now, I appreciate when we're under time constraints, but that worked for me with my ones.
That's really nice to hear. I think sometimes the approach, though, it's not just the time constraint, isn't it? Is it? It's also the pricing. Again, it comes back to I'm going to hold your hand, but actually I'm going to charge for it, and then you get a pushback of, but I don't want to do it in the first place, so I don't want to pay. I think that there are.
So I did that part in stages, I was like, right, we'll do a training session, and you pay me for that, and then we and then sort of brought in the extra services gradually over a couple of years, and that made it less painful. And then they could see the benefit as well, because he was like, it's so much easier, and he was saving time and money on just silly things like paper and stamps from like sending out the invoices by the post. So there are ways you can kind of justify that expense, because it is kind of cutting other expenses and other time for the client. So,
and Lindsey, have you found that members have needed lots of help and hand holding on pricing side of things, or has it been more technical questions, or which has been more popular as questions for the ICAEW, practical questions or technical questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that when they're talking to myself or Caroline when she was here, it was definitely, we got the technical questions, and we did learn. We went along to one like small practitioner regional group, and the idea of that group was for them to have that peer group discussion about pricing, what services you're going to offer and things like that. But because we were on the call, it just turned into a technical session. They wanted to ask us questions, and so we stopped that from happening. So I can't tell a practice how to run their practice. I'm too far removed, and I wouldn't want to do that, but I'm more than happy to answer technical questions. So I think it's getting the practitioners together and getting that peer group support and that conversation going, and happy to facilitate that. But I always worry that if I'm there, that conversation won't happen in the way it should.
That's really interesting perspective, actually. It's not what I expected you to say. It's nice that you you mentioned peer group. Let's do a little plug for accountants therapy again, guys. If anybody out there is looking for a peer group to discuss things like the practical aspects, but we can also support with the technical questions, come and join us in accountants therapy. Or you'll get some emails about it anyway. Good stuff. Just to let everybody know that's joined us today for Della. Della is on her way. She's just having a little bit of a problem trying to find the join link, so she will be here shortly. I really like the question you asked earlier, Tom, about questions for each other. We did ask all of our panelists to think of questions for those that they were gonna see. Did you guys have any questions for Sam, or Sam, did you have any questions for Lindsey or Suzannah that you wanted to throw out? It's okay if you don't. That's fine. We'll think of something else.
I asked mine already.
Yes, you've done yours. Good stuff. And in the chat, guys, do keep any questions coming in. We can throw them at our panelists. So what's a good?
I've got to do a shout out, Robyn. Obviously today is all about our community coming together, getting the sign-ups done, getting your LOEs done, all of that. We have had Suzanne in the chat saying that she saved her sign-ups for today and she's getting them done. It's really good to see that. So guys, don't forget, there is loads of people in the chat. There's 100 of you all chatting away. Get your sign-ups done. If you've got some jobs to get done, get them done in the background. And so my next question is for Sam, actually, because Sam, I've seen you on quite a few MTD webinars. I saw that you were talking again at Accountex. And I asked this question earlier. How different do you think MTD is now to when you first started getting involved in MTD?
I mean, the big differentiator for me at Accountex this year was that I'm talking about something that has happened. So I've been talking about MTD for years, like literally years, and it was really nice and refreshing to actually sit there and say, here we are, like, let's talk about this thing that we're actually doing. Because I mean, there was a lot of hype and excitement at the first kind of talks I was doing about MTD, where it was, this is what's going to happen, But then when it was getting delayed, the audience went down. It did. Like this time it was packed out. It was great. Standing room only on the Sage stand as we were doing the MTD bit. And it was really nice to share my experiences and also just hear like from the audience and talk about, like I say, something that we're actually doing, because we can plan, right? And I talked so much about the segmentation piece, about how to get ready for MTD, both internally and for staff and for the clients. And I think, with all the will in the world, we're not going to know what it actually looks like until it happens. We can predict which ratio our clients will want us to do it. We can predict who's going to go on which software and all of that. But until we're actually saying to clients, right, no longer just need to think about this, we need to do it, that's when it does get really interesting and we can start sharing experiences that are actually happening. So it's been great. And also the webinars that I do, I always love, and I spoke to Robyn about this. We met at Accountex actually first time in person. It was really like a really small conversation, but this nugget of information came out that we were both saying how nice it is to do public speaking when it's kind of it's your experiences rather than just technical content. It's nice to mix the two. Technical content, is great, but it's also high pressure. And
much easier when it's just your opinion, and your opinion can't be wrong. Can be wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. So I loved it, and I am loving the webinars I'm doing for CPD Store as well, because it is opinions, it's my experiences, and the audience love it. Because I think it's fantastic what you're doing today, because I forget sometimes how lucky I am for the reach I've got of other practice owners, other people in the business, because of what I do with the public speaking. I've got access to, but not everybody has that. And I kind of take a step back and think how lonely something like MTD must be for somebody that actually, and that's why I think that your group, and everything that you do with MTD therapy is great. And a day like today, there will be people that haven't heard another practice owner say something that they've been really worried about, and just that like shared experience. I just think it's worth its weight in gold.
Oh, thank you, Sam. Now it's come to that time where we're 10:15. It's time for us to say
Flying.
thank you so much to Suzannah
Mm.
and Lindsey for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Before you go,
you.
do you have any last words? Do you have a question you want to ask Della? Do you have our last guest we asked, what's your next step in terms of MTD? Go for it, Suzannah. Perhaps you go first.
Well, as Kirsty said in the previous chat, I'm really interested to see what that final declaration looks like. So for my ones on the beta, I'm waiting to do that. It feels like the calm before the storm a little bit at the moment, doesn't it? So I think I'm not worried about the quarterly filing. I'm trying to get all my self-assessments for 25, 26 done as early as possible, so then I can focus on getting those 30k clients ready. And most of mine are almost ready. I would say I've got a couple of newer ones that I need to get onboarded onto software, and get their habits sort of in place. But yeah, that's what I've got next. But yeah, well done everyone. This has been great today.
Thank you so much for joining
yeah,
us.
we've got this.
Thank you for getting involved,
Thank
Suzannah. I
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So much.
Thank you.
Lindsey, over
Enjoy
to
the
you.
rest of the day. Yeah, thank you for having me here. And in terms of my next steps, more MTD Q&As. I've got a couple more webinars coming up. Whether it's well, I know that there's lots of software ones, but there's also a couple of technical ones that ICAEW are doing. But yeah, everyone's doing a great job, and I call it making accounting digital, because it is about digital bookkeeping and accounting, isn't it?
Maybe that would have had
Absolutely.
better traction.
Yeah, but it would have been mad.
Amy Copeland calls it making bookkeeping mandatory.
Oh, yeah, no, I like that. I can see where that comes
Oh,
from.
that's good.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, again, that might have had better traction too. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Hopefully, we'll
guys.
see you
Thank
later in the
you.
chat if you're able to join us. And at 4 o'clock, just a reminder that you're welcome to come back and join us for a little sum up of the day and a celebration of everything that's been talked about. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's
Bye.
welcome Della. Della, I'm so glad you
Oh,
could join us. Are
I'm
you
so
okay?
sorry about
It's
that. Typical live event. Others, we have a tech check.
This is,
Everything's fine. You go off, have a cup of tea.
This was very much an ambitious idea from us to go. Nobody gets a sound check. Everybody can just come in, and hope that there's no technical issues. So, Della, can we start by well, first of all, welcome you, thanking you very much for coming on. But please, could you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your MTD journey? That would be awesome.
Okay, so I'm Della Hudson. I'm a chartered accountant. I'm the founder of 5 businesses with 2 successful exits to date. So I'm very much a business owner as well. So yeah, I run Minerva Accountants, which is my second accountancy practice. We are fully remote, boutique practice, not like the first one I ran, which very much physical premises and meeting rooms and everything. And I have been speaking about MTD, I think, since 2018, when I was first talking about MTD for VAT. So I joke with Craig that I've been talking about MTD longer than he has.
We'll throw that in later when he joins us. Okay.
Yeah, newbie. Coming off the back of all our hard work getting clients. Yeah, no, he's lovely.
Yeah, he just rocks up and just delivers it at the last minute. That's all he's done.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's a really good place to start. Tom's been asking this question to people. What's your experience from the start of when you got involved in MTD to now? What differences have you seen?
Actually, my very first thing, I sat down, I think it was in Exeter, with an HMRC inspector who was asking our opinions on, this thing called MTD and what level should it start of turnover should it start at, and so on and so on. Needless to say, they asked us our opinions, and we're talking about, that
150,000, yeah?
Yeah,
Something like that.
150,000, or at the very least, the what was 85,000 then, the VAT limit. Because they're already doing quarterly reporting and so on, but completely ignored. And
do you think that so I definitely think, be upfront, that if we had seen MTD come in for VAT registered businesses first, that we would see less kickback in industry from it, that we would see a better system overall?
Yeah.
Do you think that?
Absolutely. But we are where we are, and I'm all in favour, because we're predominantly business accountants, I'm all in favour of businesses having software that can do so much more for their business than just the bookkeeping for them, that they can have useful information to make decisions and so on. So I'm all for the principle of it, the digital records, the up-to-date bookkeeping and so on. Yeah, absolutely great. To me, I was offering, the carrot of, how much better you can make your business with all this up-to-date information. And HMRC came along with a great big stick that helped me to get my clients where I wanted them to be. For my type of clients, it's the right thing. But what we've got coming in next are the landlords next year. So they're actually more of an issue for me. Because they don't have any sort of record keeping, and in my heart of hearts, I can't really see any benefit.
I'm completely with you. I think that often we do get sucked into talking just about the self-employed when we're talking about MTD, because that is, and everyone knows, I'm not a great fan of talking about all the benefits of MTD, because I don't feel that there really are. I'm going to repeat the point I said earlier, that I feel that the benefits of MTD are actually the same as the benefits of good bookkeeping, that we should be encouraging our clients to embrace if that's right for them. Anyway, if we can see those benefits, that's how you're going to get them. You don't need the quarterly reporting to obtain those kind of benefits. But for landlords, it's a much more tricky situation. I saw Sam, though, unmute herself when we were talking about the VAT threshold, etc. Did you want to come in on that, Sam? I don't want to miss you.
Yeah, just in support of it, to be honest. Like, that would have been a much more seamless process for us. It would have just been more, I think it would have felt more natural. Do you know what I mean? Rather than just like this new threshold, I think it would have just been more natural to get them in first, definitely.
Do you think it would have changed your process and approach to MTD?
I don't think it would have changed the approach necessarily, but what it would have done is meant that our first experience of submitting would have been with clients that were already used to working digitally with. So, the whole project, I think, wouldn't have felt as scary as getting all these clients that majority of them don't have any bookkeeping software at the moment kind of on board.
You could have ironed out the cracks, couldn't you, with the people that are needing it the most, and then it would have been a much easier pill to swallow later on down the road, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I think I would have found a completely different process. That's just come into my head, because I think we would have found for us that process would have sat with our bookkeeping team rather than with our tax team.
Yeah, that's true.
Because our VAT process sits with our bookkeeping and accounts team. I think that would have then been the extension there, because they would already have been doing it with the VAT clients, etc. And then that would sit on that side and flow through to us eventually for self-assessment, rather than what is happening now is that it sits with the tax team. And that does create a little bit of awkwardness when we have got a VAT registered client. So we're cross-discipline on it. Albeit that in some ways, having it dealt with by a separate team does mean that, at least for the VAT registered ones, we can say, well, this is a separate service, so therefore we need to charge for it.
Do you guys think as well that it's a completely like MTD for income tax is nothing like MTD for VAT when it comes to the education of clients as well? I think that's been the biggest thing. VAT registered businesses still did VAT quarterly back then. It was then just moving them to a digital system. This is a complete change in the way everybody is keeping their records. I think that's been the biggest culture shock for a lot of people, isn't it? Is doing it annually to doing it every weekly, monthly, quarterly. That's been a big shock for people, I think.
But Tom, don't you think that ideally they should have been doing that anyway? Yeah,
they should have been.
The landlords for
Absolutely.
now, but the businesses.
Yeah, I think you should be doing it more regularly, but I've got a lot of clients where they didn't need to. So I've got like a lot of CIS subcontractors where
Yeah.
they don't need to keep records in that process. Landlords don't need to keep records. They know where they're at. I've got clients that are antique dealers. You know, they don't need to be keeping digital accounting records. They produce amazing cash books that they've been doing for donkey's years. And
The
honestly,
cathedral
they are,
notebooks, all perfect handwriting.
yeah, but when they've been doing that for 40 years, and now I'm having to say to them, we've got to basically take that information and put it into a digital, format, it is mind blowing. And any time a system's brought in where people go, I'd rather retire than change, I feel a little bit sad. But I do appreciate that if maybe I'd met them 20 years ago, they would have changed their systems 20 years ago now. I think that the generations coming through are going to see massive benefits with MTD because they are going to grow up with that technology. So the cash books will go. And I think that is a big positive for the future generations.
But for me, it's still those limits of the real pain because, £20,000, that's income, not
Yeah.
profitability. Even the £20,000 is below the average wage.
Yeah.
What's
Well, and Robyn has been the biggest champion for this with who's talking about those on universal credit. And when that 20K cohort comes in, a lot of people on universal credit are going to come into that. I mean, they're going to be professional bookkeepers, and we'll probably be able to recruit them as amazing bookkeepers because they'd be so good with accounting records and filling out forms monthly. They're probably going to be fantastic people to work with.
Don't give HMRC ideas about how to get around that problem, Tom. Yeah, I think for me that is a huge mind-blowing prospect that the 20,000 you then get into the problems of universal credit and more into the problems of people that need professional support but don't have the means to pay for it. It gives us a really tricky situation in practice that I think our heartstrings are going to tug. And I think there will be, I can already see, particularly with conversations we've had in accountants therapy, how difficult it is to get over that original marketing of the click of a button, to make ourselves remember that what we're doing now for the 50,000 is additional work. There should be a consideration of charging for that work. There is a value to that work. When we get down to those 20,000s and you've got, I don't want to call them sob stories because they won't be sob stories. They'll be genuine stories of difficulty matched with, I can't pay for this, matched with an industry that undervalues themselves and the work that they do, in my experience, that to me feels a little bit like a perfect storm. Do you think we'll see problems there? Maybe this leads into the pricing question that a lot of people like to talk about, and we've had a question in the chat about if you have a £70,000 turnover client, how much are you going to charge them? How have you approached pricing, and will that change as we get through, say for landlords, say for your 30,000s and your 20,000s? Della, do you want to
for
go
most
first?
of our clients, we've gone for a one-to-many training, and they are doing the ones that weren't already doing it. We have set them up on software and provided some fairly standard training on what they need to do, so that they're doing their own bookkeeping. And they have been for a while now. And then what I've got coming up in July will be a one-to-many webinar on, okay, so now you've got your bookkeeping up to date. This is how you press the button to submit it. So if I can do it one-to-many, and if they can do it themselves, that's much
So
better.
you have lots of clients who will be submitting their quarterly updates themselves.
Yeah. And then on top of that, we put in a great big overall increase this year because we've had all that one-to-many training has to be paid for somehow. We've had to update our systems. So we've done lots internally that's not related to any specific client, so that we don't have to do too much for them in future, that they can still do those quarterly bits, and then we'll catch up at the year end exactly the same way we used to, maybe with a bit better quality information. Who knows, it could be worse.
Yeah,
and then we also had at the same time with their doing for the limited companies, we've got all this extra companies house stuff with chasing people for codes and stuff like that, which just came out of the blue all of a sudden. So we've had something for the limited, something for the self-employed, all in one go. So yeah, huge overall increases for the work that we've picked up, that isn't really chargeable. So I'm hoping if people can do that, but yeah, if they do need us to do it for them, then we need to charge them for it.
Absolutely. And Sam, how about you? Do you think you'll see your approach change as we go through the 30,000, 20,000 cohort?
I guess the group
Hello, Nick.
Hi, everyone.
that are in now are tests, but also whether it's going to be profitable, because it is brand new, this work that we're doing. So, I'm confident, but I can't be certain that I've actually landed the pricing correctly in terms of profitability. So I think that will be a test. But I also think there'll be other patterns that we see in terms of how well clients are handling it themselves. I think the fact that online banking providers are offering MTD solutions, some of, I think that's really interesting. And I think that will definitely push more smaller end businesses, probably that final leg, more towards doing it themselves, because if it's, their online banking, the app that they're using, and they know how to work anyway, I think that's a really good kind of way to almost guide those clients rather than trying to give them software. Obviously, in an ideal world, they'd all be using software, and we can sing and dance about the advantages of that. But I think from the smaller end to think about those 20,000 turnovers, I would probably at this stage, if asked by them, I'd say, well, are you using a business bank account? And if not, get used to doing that part now for the next couple of years. And then by the time MTD comes in, it's just a, extra bit of categorization and clicking submit every quarter.
Thank you. Thank you for that, ladies. Oh, we can't move further without addressing Nick.
Did we have an award for
I
best
feel a bit
dressed?
underdressed.
I know.
Yeah,
Who takes this event seriously? Wow.
It's a big day. I mean, I'm waiting for Stu to arrive. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Oh, gentlemen. I put a shirt on today, which I thought was pretty smart. You guys have upped it to another level. Bravo, gents.
Sam says she's got a question.
Nick, have you got the bottom half of your suit on, or is it like back in COVID times where you've got a pair of joggers on?
Not red socks today.
Oh, I see, I knew it. Something told me that this was only...
That was a lot of skin for 10:30 on a Friday.
Yeah.
Can I? Well, this is where I'm at. This is dangerous, isn't it?
Are you going to have to jump?
Let's have a wee look. Wait a second.
It's the flashing in and out.
No.
Full kill.
Wow.
2 seconds. I'll change my background in a sec.
I'll tell you what, I think, where do we go from here?
I don't know.
There you go.
Back at
Broken us already.
Full evening dress.
Bravo, gentlemen.
Wow. Yeah, taking the event seriously. Thank you, guys. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. Where were we? We were talking about pricing and how things would change between the 30,000 and 20,000s coming in. But one of the things that we would love to know is whether any of you have questions for each other before we start talking too much. Do any of you have any questions for each other on the...
I think, Della, it's interesting for me to ask whether you're picking up new clients because of MTD. Is that something that you're finding? Because we've had quite a few come forward. Well, I say quite a few, we can see a bit of a pattern emerging.
We're only taking them by referral because we specialise in business advice. So it's people who are already using that software and so on. So slightly bigger businesses. But yeah, I spoke yesterday to a barrister.
Yeah.
Completely intelligent person, suddenly has to do this for their own business, plus the little bit of rental on top. And it's just one too many things for, a competent individual. And then you think, when you've got all the tradies, the bricklayers, the plumbers, the whatever, who aren't so comfortable with technology in that respect, it's a big step.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel.
I've got a question on that as well. In terms of, I appreciate that you've had some coming already. I think they're almost the prepared unrepresented.
Yes.
Now. How concerned are you towards maybe the end of July for how many people come out of the woodwork and give you, say, a couple of weeks to get everything onboarded and sent across? Is that something that you're concerned about if they just turn up and expect you to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the reality, isn't it? And we all go there in January with tax return self-assessment deadline. And I think as a practice owner, I've got to make a decision now. Are we going to support those people or not? But also, are we going to support the current clients who have assured us that they've got MTD in hand? They are doing it themselves. They've found a software that we've never heard of. Things like that, I'm doing it on mtdabc.com. Right, that's great. Are you actually going to look at that before the filing date? Or actually, are you going to... So we're actually putting a bit of I can kind of guess which ones might be back of the current clients. We've got a lot of...
You know them, don't you?
Yeah, and we have, and I said it at Accountex, and I could see the audience nodding, that some of this has actually been a personality analysis, right? So we can analyze turnover, we can analyze trade types, we can analyze, but actually we've got a bit of a personality trait analysis going on here. And I'll say to Melissa in the office, that one will be back. He's not doing his own MTD returns. And, I love the small businesses. I love the sole traders, the tradies that we act for. They're good fun. I love acting for them and working with them. But some of them who are all real sure that they've got MTD, in hand because they clicked on a Facebook advert and they've got a free software that they've never even accessed. I just, you can predict what's going to happen with some of them, definitely.
Oh, this leads us to a really great software question. Do you think you'll find that there's many people out there that have access software, maybe even using it and using it well, but then come to find that it's not functional for MTD?
I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest risks, and I say this is so a little bit pot kettle black if I'm honest, but one of the biggest risks in all this software industry is that as software we're not regulated. And I think Free Agent's a great example, and I'm sure Taxcalc's the same, and many others of the bigger providers here. We're built with accountants in house. We have a chief accountant. So many of our teams are accounting qualified, but there are a lot on that software list that I don't know behind the scenes, but that aren't built with accountants nor have accountants in house. And my worry there is that there's legal issues to come off the back of that. Because they're building from either their interpretations or even worse, maybe AI's interpretations as to what the right things are. And that's scary when these tools are reaching people at source, especially trades on the building site, for example, rather than through their accountant and bookkeeper.
I think
have you seen the marketing on Facebook, Stu, isn't it? Yeah, some of the stuff that you're seeing on Facebook and TikTok and social media going, this is the best app for MTD, and I'm going, you're not even HMRC recognised. And I don't know that you will be, and you're getting people to sign up to your software. They're in for a bit of a hit in July and August when they're trying to submit. I'm surprised HMRC hasn't had a firmer hand on that.
Yeah,
I think sorry, Stu. The tax return as well. So there will be a lot of unrepresented, especially I think, that are doing their MTD returns on a software. Brilliant. But then they come to the end of the year and think they can still do their annual tax return, on the gateway, or maybe they're thinking that the software will deal with that. But as we know, not all softwares are doing the end of year MTD tax return. So I think that'll be a big potentially influx for accountants of unrepresented taxpayers saying, I can't do my tax return. I've been doing my own MTD.
Is that a worry for software as well, that you're going to see an enormous influx of people moving? So Free Agent, Taxcalc, do you think you will see that happen?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So at the moment, it's the happy path for us in that our growth and our users are coming to us going, I heard from MTD and it's the start of the year, let's get started. And we're like, brilliant, that's exactly what we want to see. But whilst it's a lovely problem to have, there are definitely going to be people coming mid-year or right at the end going, how do I backdate my records, or how do I get this stuff in? Because people aren't ready. And I think there's a comment in the chat, and I certainly won't mention competitor names directly, but from the bank-driven softwares, there's still a massive question mark as to, like, after the quarterly updates, what does the final declaration look like, especially ones being powered by the big green monster? Like, what happens at end of year? Are you expecting them to do all that in their banking mobile app? Like, really, a tax return? So, yeah.
And with the accountants don't have access to it.
Yes.
That would be very interesting if you've got banks seeking to partner with accountants and then producing software that the partners can't access.
Yeah, I think that that's really scary in terms of knowing how willing some clients are to give you every single login just to get you to do it as well. The thought that some clients and some advisors might fall into the trap of using those logins that actually give you access to someone's bank. That's really frightening, isn't it? It's funny. That's something that, again, definitely we've seen in accountants therapy, this sort of suspicion over the bank's softwares. Definitely. It sends all our spidey senses going, oh, we don't really like this. That will be an interesting thing to watch, won't it? It'll be interesting. I realise we haven't actually had Stu and Nick introduce themselves, so it might be worth going back to the beginning and
I wonder who they work for.
Yeah, no idea. But what we've been asking everyone when they join is to just give us an introduction and tell us a little bit about your MTD journey, if you would. Nick, do you want to go first?
Yeah, no problem at all. So I head up the pre-sales and professional services team at Taxcalc and now Engager. Prior to that, worked at another similar type of software company called CCH, Battle Walters Kluwer. Before that, worked in practice at a firm in Bolton. But yeah, in terms of the MTD side with Taxcalc, it's kind of felt almost business as usual in terms of, we look after 12,500 firms who, go through the variety of different tax changes, over the last 20 years. MTD was just kind of the next one off the rank as such, and supporting our customers through it with a bridging solution effectively allows our customers to be fully compliant with MTD if, in my opinion, the bookkeeping provider doesn't suit that client's needs. Yeah, so appreciate we've got Stu on from freeagent, which is always likely to be the first choice, that if a client of yours can go on a bookkeeping software, they absolutely should do. But if it doesn't fit the needs, the spreadsheets are there as an option as well. So yeah, Taxcalc's journey has kind of been there as an option for you, but we appreciate that the bookkeeping solutions have kind of been at the forefront of the marketing push for MTD for everyone. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm here to support, the other option to the bookkeeping providers.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I'm Stu. I work at freeagent. I lead all of our tax products. So my day-to-day life is building MTD and spending all the lovely time with our lovely colleagues at HMRC. Like, I know Gemma's in the chat today, who I know quite well. And yeah, our free agents journey has been a really successful one, or certainly one that we're super proud of, for two reasons. One, because the whole company has kind of rallied around this, which is just really lovely to see. And all of the success we've had so far has involved our marketing team and our support team and all of it. And it's great. And in terms of how we're looking at MTD, we've got the most final declarations for the beta year 25-26 by a country mile. And I'm super, super proud of that, and are very ahead of the market in two areas. One, those numbers, but also how we've innovated. We've taken a slightly different approach to some of the others you might hear from today, in that we're not saying AI is going to change your lives and here's all the AI agents that are going to fix all your jobs. We've actually innovated to solve a lot of real problems around things like bulk filing and the most granular permissions that exist on the market for practices of how they can control their clients through MTD and all the bookkeeping side. So we're in a super, super happy position as a company, and can't wait to see how July and August come. We'll be ready. I hope all the systems on the other side of things will be ready as well.
Has it been
Stick whiskey?
Yeah, has it been a stressful journey or a fun journey to be a part of that innovation?
I think a bit of both. I think, to be fair, it's the best I've seen HMRC be from a developer perspective in terms of building out a new kind of legislative software, as it were, the changes behind the scenes that they've made and the support that they've given for vendors and inclusivity of vendors in their decisions has been the best we've ever seen. So that's been really great. But with the kind of, it's still been laying the tracks as we're building. So we're kind of guinea pigging through all the mistakes and then getting them to change it and back and forth. So it's never going to be completely clear when things change, but they're definitely on a path to improvement. I don't know about for you, Nick, how have you felt things?
Yeah, exactly the same. I think that, with the agility that you're able to kind of get ahead of the game and start filing finalization pieces because of that browser-based cloud software point. We've had to kind of wait until our release cycle, so we're only able to kind of get it out towards the end of June this year, the finalization bit. But HMRC have, like you say, been a bit better this time around than in previous iterations, but they're always throwing things out there, like a change to the CT600 format that they wanted to release in April that we kind of battered them down, had to push back. So there's always things that they want to make our lives more difficult with. But it's been I would argue better than I probably expected from the software side.
Good.
That's good news,
guys. I'm conscious it is now 11:15 and it's time to say goodbye to the lovely Samantha and Della. Thank you very much. You guys have been incredible. It's been a pleasure actually getting to chat to you guys after seeing you on webcams and webinars and accounting at Accountex, talking at Accountex. And thank you so much, guys. So Samantha, would you like to just say a final comment for the day before Della, and then we'll say our goodbyes?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'll definitely be listening to the rest of the day and keep doing what you guys do. And I would love to see you repeat this after the 7th of August.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
You going to come back?
Yeah, I'll come back.
Brilliant. Yeah, let's do it then.
It's brilliant. No, thank you so much. This has been such a good thing. It's been needed. I think everybody's been racing to that finish line to get everybody up onto it for April, and now we sort of take stock ready for, as Sam says, we need to be back after that. Yeah, 7th of August.
Oh, good.
Well, I'm heading off to a software conference in Denver, so
it really hasn't been stressful to organise this whatsoever, has it, Tom? So that's fine. We'll just do it all again.
It's been a pleasure, actually. But I think let's up the ante, right? What we'll do is we'll do the marathon, but then we'll save a special slot for the big blue monster, the big burgundy monster, and the big green monster. We'll just leave them in the room and just walk away.
Done. Yeah. There we go. Much fun. Thank you very much.
Sam. Thank you, Della. You're amazing. All the best, guys.
See you later.
Come back at 4. Bye.
Right.
I'll button up now because it's it's serious time with the boys in suits.
I am impressed.
How are you both doing, guys? You've had an amazing Accountex last week. Every time I tried to speak to you both, you were absolutely rammed on your stands. How are you finding MTD is going for your customers? Stu, how's things going at Free Agent? Obviously leading the way with 26 submissions for tax returns. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's really positive. It's created other problems, as you can imagine. And we've been, since NatWest bought us, I'll step back a little bit, like however many years ago now, 8 or so years ago, it's really supercharged our growth, which has been tremendous because of the offering we've got in the market. And MTD has taken another step change in that in the last few months. And so it's created problems around onboarding and then kind of helping these people get up to speed. And they're the greatest problems to have. And the credit to our support team for doing so much to get these people set up on the right foot. So really, really positive. And one nice thing about Free Agent to kind of lean back on in this is its USP or one of its USPs is the ease of use. So these unrepresented especially, or the smallest of those 50,000s that are represented, it's not really a steep learning curve to get to know the software. And that's been a really nice thing for us. And I imagine the solutions that are of a similar vibe will do really well here, because it is a big shock to people that aren't digital for sure. And on Accountex, Tom, we were absolutely ran record numbers for the event, record numbers for us in terms of scans. But the biggest change that we saw is the quality of conversations we were having was better than any year by a long way. And it's people that know about things, or even they've heard of MTD, even that as a step is massive. When in previous years they may be more like low quality, what's kind of going on here, what's this event about, what do you guys do, all that kind of stuff. So that's been really good. And yeah, a lot of, I mean, a nice segue into Nick is, I think Taxcalc have been exactly the same. Like I think we both published our like rough scan numbers and leads, and we're looking in the thousands, not the hundreds, which is just amazing.
Wow, congratulations both of you.
Yeah, 100%, totally agree. Yeah, it's yeah, I think the fact that it's 12 months on from the Engager acquisition was probably the biggest difference, because we had people coming to our stand for both of those elements. So sometimes it was quite nice to have a conversation not about MTD. I'm sure that's probably how you feel sometimes, guys, as well. But yeah, and what I also point out with Stu mentioning there as well is that I felt like everyone who came over to the stand, I feels like they've nailed the concept of the quarterly reporting. They understand what is needed to do, and have a good idea of their clients who need to fulfill with that. But it was the question about the finalisation piece, right? And like I mentioned before, I understand that with the Taxcalc side, it's just about nearly ready to be rolled out. But I also think that the subsection of people that were coming to Accountex are the people who are engaged with the changes in the industry generally anyway. It's the accountants who aren't coming to Accountex or the relevant different industry events that I think sometimes miss out on the information and the type of information that you're presenting here to your community. So it's being able to reach out to those people who aren't engaged in the conversations to get them up and running with it. But yeah, it's amazing. I just want to also make a point as well with Stu on the call, right? I think I mentioned to this beforehand about 3 months ago. My sister-in-law went self-employed as a hairdresser, was asking about MTD, and she set herself up on Free Agent and Metal. Absolutely loved it. She wanted a bookkeeping software. So yeah, we all believe in the process and totally agree with what Stu's referencing today. And she absolutely loves it. Wouldn't want to go any other way now, because she wanted that reporting conversation connection with the bank account. So yeah, absolutely, we believe it. And the Free Agent Taxcalc Loving is live and kicking.
Oh, it's romantic. It is absolutely romantic. I mean, there's great integration as well. It's pointing out that Free Agent and Taxcalc do have a fantastic integration. I've used it myself personally. It's fantastic. It works, which you can't ask for any more than that with an integration, can you?
Absolutely. There's a nice wee ecosystem there with Engager as well. And then there's a few other softwares, and maybe kind of call out Xenon Connect as well, that we all speak to and embed in our sort. And it's kind of nice we all back each other and partner with each other to make it a really useful ecosystem, which is great. And from a Free Agent perspective, not just a personal perspective, we've got nothing but amazing things to say about Taxcalc for sure. Like, just a tremendous team and a tremendous software. What I will say to your other point, Nick, and I don't know how you and Tom and Robyn feel about this, but I always have to really check my survivorship bias, because you've got like events where, as you say, Nick, people are engaged. You've got accountants therapy when people engage. You're like, oh, this is just the practice market. This is what they think. And you're like, actually, there's this massive section out of there that has no idea about this stuff going on. And that's the bit that we need to tap into, but it's very difficult to.
I had a lot of sympathy for Craig and HMRC at Accountex, actually, because I came off stage with Robyn and I was confronted by a very angry gentleman who basically told me what I'd said on stage was false. And all it was that he'd said that, I can still submit tax returns, even if they're MTD, on the government gateway. And I was like, no, you can't. You need to have MTD compliance software, has got to be HMRC recognised. And he was like, nope, I logged in on their systems the other day and I could still use the gateway. So you shouldn't be telling people that on stage. And I was generally gobsmacked. I just said, okay, look, I think this is a HMRC problem. Go and talk to them. I was kind of like, I don't know what more I can do to help you, unfortunately. But
I'm so sad I missed that, because I love a scrap like that.
You were edging away.
I know,
I thought
but I didn't realise.
Robyn's like, yeah.
But he can handle whatever that is. He can handle it. I wish I'd waded in on that one.
On that, so I had a very similar conversation, just to jump in there, with someone at Fab who was previously a HMRC advisor, I was told, that said that they were planning to do all their MTD end of tax returns on the government gateway. And I was like, okay,
enjoy.
I can tell you, but good luck, right? If you were saying what I was saying wasn't right, that you needed something, and totally agree with you.
Why do you think these thoughts are prevailing? Do you think it's because people don't want to accept, or do you think it's because there's lots of misinformation out there? Why are we still seeing this?
Personally, I don't think it's misinformation. There is definitely some misinformation. I know, Robyn, we've been commenting on similar things that we've been seeing, but I think it's just it's really difficult for people in the modern world, regardless of what industry you are, to keep up with all the things that are happening. And so I know all of the individual softwares, and this is a good thing about the vendor industry as well. And I'm not trying to just talk about Free Agent and Taxcalc here. I'll call out to, like, I know Chris is here and Sage and stuff. The whole industry is doing so much to try and reach people. HMRC are also doing their things as well. But that still just only scratches the surface, because you know that if you've got loads of people shouting at you about certain things and all trying to tell you their product updates at the same time, it's just really difficult to keep up with what's going on. And I don't know what the best mechanism is. I don't really have a solution, but it feels like there is a real gap to upskill the entire accounting and bookkeeping industry in legislative changes. And maybe that's what the representative bodies are for. But again, like, it's not happening to the levels that we want it to happen. So I wouldn't say it's broken, but I'm just not sure how to reach people that don't want to be reached.
So I actually have a theory on this, and I've never really talked about it, but I was thinking we've all got professional bodies, and now you're going to have to be registered with HMRC as an agent moving forward. But with the FCA changes coming in a few years with the AML compliance, we've got an opportunity to completely overhaul the entire accountancy, bookkeeping and taxation system from the very top up, because they've all got to change. They've all got to adjust to the fact that the FCA is going to regulate. So when it comes to massive industry changes, it shouldn't be any longer that you get a CPD investigation. Are you staying up to date? It's say, right, these are the mandatory courses you have to do through the year through your professional body that will tell you the information that you need to be aware of, because you've got to be on top of things. Because I still think there's going to be a lot of people that are still waiting for MTD to be cancelled because they've had it postponed in the past. And I know there was a few people at Accountex that were saying, I still think come July it won't be a problem and I'm going to use the soft landing. Maybe that is the future for the industry, is that you have to enforce it somehow from the professional bodies and say, you need to, as a professional under our umbrella, know about these changes that are coming. And that I don't know is logistically possible, but it might be that we have to come up with a new plan for how we all stay on top of
I've
things.
got a hypothetical question for the three of you, is if you're happy to answer. So we're at what, just over 300,000 people mandated out of the 864. If there wasn't a soft landing, how many do you think we would be at?
Oh, good question.
I think
Robyn go first.
I think the exact same number, Stu. Sorry, I think the exact same number. I think the people who are engaged will be engaged, and the ones who aren't, no matter what it would be.
Yeah.
I think so. I think maybe there's maybe a case for it to be a little bit higher, because I think there are part of the reason, obviously, today is to encourage people to get moving on your sign up journey. But I think there are still people holding back, and the soft landing probably encourages people to hold back a bit more, because why not? But I don't think that that's a significant proportion of people. What does Tom think first?
I think I agree with Nick. I think those that are ready and engaged wouldn't have changed. And I think we would still see a huge amount of people signing up in July, which I still think we're going to see now. We're going to see that big spike because everyone's going to go, right, I've got to do it now. I've got to have it done. Realistically, I don't think it's going to be massive differences. But what about you, Stu? You got your finger more on the pulse than I have.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's the $1 million question. I think I agree with what you're all saying, and what Robyn laid out very clearly is, like, it will be a bit more, but it's still not going to be loads. People, human nature is to do things last minute, right? And with the new penalty points, A, do they understand the penalty points? And B, if they do, are they big enough to make people change? Yeah. I don't know. I think the change is always really tough. So yeah, it's interesting. I know we've got Craig coming on soon. I was about to say,
should we wait 3 minutes and then me and Robyn are going to step back for the first 15 minutes, and you guys can have a conversation with Craig, because I think it'd be really good to have that on camera.
I mean, yeah, I ask Craig all these awkward questions pretty much on a daily basis, so I'm happy to continue with that if you don't feel free that you have to step away. I think Nick and I speak to HMRC a lot anyway.
No, we want to be privy to that. That's the
Sorry. Yeah. On that point, though, Stu, I was going to ask. You guys have been in the industry a long time. I cannot remember a time where we've had the level of communication from HMRC that we've got now. I feel like it's the best it's ever been.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. I think that probably because it's the biggest change that has affected the most amount of people, so they've had to, right? But I also think that back to Stu's point before, the communication alongside the vendors has been enormous as well, right? Without the support of the vendors, I don't think HMRC would have had the impact that it did. You know, I appreciate there's the radio adverts, there's the TV adverts, right? But without a lot of the context outside of that 30-second advert that accountants and vendors are pushing out together, it would only have landed so much, right? A lot of the time it's just you're providing the context to the interest that they're providing. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, I think
And you've had a big say in the development of it as well, hadn't you? As software vendors, you've been saying this doesn't work, this won't work, you've got to have it built this way.
I mean, yeah. With HMRC's digital roadmap, we are very much there's technical forums every month. There's a lot of different meetings with different people from vendors, be it our accountants or our developers or our product people and all that kind of stuff. So they are definitely listening more than they ever have before. Like there's absolutely no doubt about that. I do think they're in a very difficult position, though. It's very easy to bash HMRC, but they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. I think with the email campaigns, if they'd gone out to everybody, we would have said, we as in the royal we, right, would have said, why are you telling people that aren't relevant? So then they're like, oh, we'll just email all the people that are relevant, and then you're like, yeah, but they might not get them. I just think they've got a really, really difficult job here. The time will tell. I think we'll maybe look back at this year one and say the actual level of education was maybe poorer than we would have liked, but that's probably a people problem rather than a tools problem, like how do you get to these people kind of thing. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, look.
Oh, he slapped the tile.
Party time.
I felt very underdressed, and I know Les in our group loves a tie, so I thought the least I could do is to if I was going to be overlapping with Stu and Nick, at least make an effort.
Very good. Very good. We have had a re-request for the kilt again, Stu, but
this just feels weird at this point, if I'm honest.
Maybe we don't want HMRC to arrive just as you stood up and you
I mean, it's Craig, right? He's Scottish. This would be the most appropriate welcome. I'll get my bagpipes
I reckon
out
Craig is going to be late because he's getting it on now.
We might still be wearing it from last night's event, so you never know.
The IoT last night. Good stuff. Good. So now's that calm before the storm as we're waiting for HMRC to arrive.
Yeah.
Do
you reckon he's going to arrive 11 minutes late, just, in keeping?
Maybe 16 minutes past.
16 minutes past, yeah. No, I mean, everyone watching that doesn't know us will know that we actually do have a lot of love and respect for Craig and for the guys in the MTD team. They have been fantastic. I think where we were 12 months ago to where we are now, a lot of that is down to the communication that they have done with all of us. We're not just talking the 5 in the room, we're talking all the software vendors, all of the LinkedIn posts, all of the webinars that they've done, the in-person events. It's been brilliant. And like you guys were saying, the road shows that the software vendors have done. I've been to Sage one, I've been to Free Agent one. I couldn't make it to the Fusion event, Nick, apologies, but that is where I learned most of my MTD information, was at those road shows, and then obviously through Accountants Therapy, sitting there and reading it for 2 hours a day. And it's been a brilliant last 12 months. It's been a pleasure to get to know you guys as well. I've been really looking forward to this session with you today, and I cannot wait for Craig to get in, because I'm just going to go quiet and let you two go and have a chat.
Yeah, before Craig jumps in, we'll just try and get in. The reason why myself and Stu did arrive like this is because we feel like between Taxcalc and ICAEW, we are the smartest choice for MTD, right? Yeah, here we go. So yeah, that's the driver for the opportunity today. But yeah, any questions, please do reach out to either myself or Stu on LinkedIn or anything, and we'll be able to give as much information about the options that Taxcalc and Free Agent have for your MTD clients.
Now, for those of you that aren't aware, I had a phone call from Craig at 10 to 9 this morning. Bearing in mind, we went live at 9 a.m. and there was a message from Craig that said, I've had an idea. Could you give me a call? And that was at, 8:50 or something. So we had a quick chat with Craig. Craig is bringing in some friends from HMRC. So Nick, without any further ado, Nicholas Atkinson. Sorry, because we've got Nick Paddenburg and Nicholas Atkinson. Do you want to just introduce yourself, Nicholas, so that everybody knows who you are?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm just struggling with getting Zoom working. As you know, we're not allowed access to Zoom in HMRC, so joining on a different machine. So yeah, hello everybody. I'm Nick Atkinson. So I'm the Deputy Director for MTD Strategy and Policy, and I work for Craig.
Welcome.
Fantastic.
It appears to me that we haven't actually had our third Nick, 3 Nicks all at once. Very confusing. Introduce himself. So Nick Paddenburg, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Morning everyone. Great to be involved with this. My name is Nick Paddenburg. I run an accountancy practice down in Brighton called Brighton Tax, founded by my father 47 years ago. I've had the pleasure of working here for almost 20 years, 10 years as director of the company. Our MTD journey has been very, very interesting. we've been advising clients for the last 5 to 6 years throughout. I decided to attend one of the first HMRC seminars, which was up in Leeds, which is where I first came across Craig. Well, I'd heard of him before, but first time we met. Just in time,
There
Craig.
you
And
go.
I think we first bonded over the Six Nations, and we were talking about England versus Scotland. But off the back of meeting Craig back in Leeds last year, I said to him, I'm going to sign up one sole trader, one landlord, and enter the 24-25 pilot. And there's a lot of hurdles along the way, quite a few teething issues. Work very closely with Iris with their build, which is a completely different build now to the 25-26 rollout. And we half got there. We managed to submit one digital tax return, and it was a great feeling, to be able to be part of this journey, support HMRC, support Iris, and get to where we are. The support from Craig and his team has been second to none. I really couldn't be thankful enough for what they've done for me, to assist me. But hopefully it's been a two-way thing, and I've helped HMRC too with the what I've come up against. So that's me and my journey. I have 50 coming in from April 26, another 150 the April after, and we should be at about 350 from April 28. So yeah, we're going to be busy.
And without further ado, do you want to do the introduction for Craig, Nick, or should we let Craig do it for him?
And I don't know that I could do it justice. I think Craig should probably introduce himself.
Drum roll, please. Everybody will be completely bored of me, surely. 2.5 years of prattling on about MTD. Yeah, there's partly what I wanted to do is bring in some of the other wonderful people I work with behind the scenes so you can get to know them. A lot of you will have known Nick. He is the policy director in MTD, so all the things that you love about MTD, it's on me. Everything that you dislike and you have an issue with, that's Nick's fault. So just to lead from the front and pass all of that to Nick. But on a serious note, over 2.5 years I've led Making Tax Digital, and I came in at a time where the team had been working really hard behind the scenes around a small business review and changing how we were working in MTD. We'd delivered MTD for VAT, but we'd had a number of challenges and deferrals around income tax. So the industry appetite engagement was incredibly low. The software market, most had walked away because they'd invested significant sums of money and it hadn't gone forward. Agents had put their reputations out there and started to get people ready. It didn't come to fruition. They were disappointed, an understatement. So we went about a total rebuild job, but behind the scenes I had genuinely a wonderful team doing great stuff, and I could see a plan that got us through to April 26 into January 28. And it was just about slowly but surely being open, talking, describing progress. But what we had to do was we had to get software to back MTD and build, but we had to get primarily agents to be willing to come forward and test the service, because if you didn't get into a private testing and then a public testing, you get caught in this death loop of no progress. And there's lots of people in the industry that I looked to and thought, they've been sort of systemic at stepping forward. Some of them absolutely buy the what MTD is all about. Some of them are MTD positive. I'd class Nick as an MTD positive, but likes parts of it, bits he would change, bits that he's less fond about, but he's not MTD negative. But also people that were MTD on the fence or MTD negative, a certain group of people stepped forward and tested the service and got involved. And without that getting involved, we couldn't start to test the service, listen to feedback, and start to make things better. And there's a misconception that if you get involved, it means you love MTD. So you don't want to do that. But actually, lots of people got involved just because they wanted to make this experience a really good experience for bookkeepers, tax agents, and accountants. They wanted to change the system. They wanted to get involved. And I think that's partly where accounting therapy came in, that it started from that Taxcalc session that Rebecca and I did, yeah. But I would take, that's been so worth it to the work you've done now. My only regret is that you didn't mobilise earlier and try and involve yourself and influence the system earlier, because it's always better to be involved than stand at the side and shout.
On that,
picking a fight early.
Yeah, I don't know that you would have wanted me involved any earlier than this, but on that point, being involved, part of the point of today is to really encourage people to be involved with the process wherever, how, as you said, however they're feeling. So I've just popped in the chat that I'm about to change my email footer to MTD negative now. So thanks for that tagline. But in terms of today, what we'd really like to see people doing is going through the sign-up process, isn't it? Do you or does Nick Atkinson want to tell us a bit about why that sign-up process is so important to do now and not to leave?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the key thing is about today is this is a resource that I've not seen before, where people give up their own time to come together to get people to think, how do I get the agent service account ready, and how do I practically plan to sign up? So a fundamental backbone, if you're an accountant, tax agent or bookkeeper, is that your agent service account is working. So if you've not taken those steps, you need to do that. And the ask I would have, if you have got colleagues or people in the industry that you see not engaging for whatever reason, use events like today to say, actually, there's a whole host of resources, government resources, but also industry resources that have built up to help you. The sign-up process is, and you'll see it in a few minutes, the sign-up process is a very deliberate ploy to make sure that we get the tax system right. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get the data right in the system and to sign people up so they become engaged and they start to keep good records. Lots of people already will, and I know that, and lots of you will be on there who already do lots of this, and that's fine. And we've built the process so that it isn't too time consuming. Granted, if you've got big numbers of clients, that the time is longer, but fundamentally that allows you to set in the new tax management platform an accurate footprint with HMRC. That's worth its weight in gold. If anybody's been around big programs like I have for the last 20 years, one of the biggest challenges you have is getting data right. So you get it right, you get the foundations right, and we start to build even better services, because MTD, we could talk about, and I'm sure you've been talking about benefits and real-time, but fundamentally, this is the start of a modern system that we can actually pre-populate more and provide a much better modern journey for you. So this is the start of a bigger thing. So that's why it's really important, Robyn. And I think now we're going to be joined by a few people that you'll get to meet throughout this session for the HMRC team. We'll intro them. We'll just have a chat. But I think it'd be great to see that that process.
Thank you, Craig. I think I'll add in on the sign up side of things that from my perspective, it's important to get that done now, because sometimes things do come up that you're not expecting, and you don't want that to happen when you're just about to submit a quarterly update, because your workflow is going to be not very nice if you are trying to get everything done on the 7th of August and you haven't done the sign up, and then something kicks up and you have to sort that. So my advice to anyone listening today is use now if you can. Go and start signing some of those clients up, and then you can use the chat and use the Q&A box to ping anything that you're seeing come through, that if there is any problem, anything that you're not sure of, you've got a wealth of people here now to throw those questions to.
So I'm good. We asked all of our guests to think of a few questions that they would like to ask the guests in the next session. So Stu, have you got anything that you wanted to maybe chat with Craig about, or vice versa? Far away, sir.
Look, Craig and I will not reveal our LinkedIn discussions publicly, but we speak very regularly. I do have a really important question, Craig, actually. With the success of you spearheading MTD and where free agent is in terms of like most filings, do you think Scotland has had a disproportionately large impact in the success of MTD?
I was going to start by saying you've brought on the only more Scottish person that I know. I was actually at Edinburgh Castle last night at the CIOT event with ATT, the president's event there, and the kilts and Ceilidh dancing was absolutely brilliant. You should have been there. It's a great question. I spend far more time out of Scotland, it feels like. I do sometimes worry, though, because you're so easy just to walk across the road and go and see the product or meet a customer, that I do spend a lot of time with Free Agent. But I think one thing that I think has been brilliant, and I'll be really straight on this, is what Free Agent have done around the end of year process. You get well involved in private testing, took the leap of faith, took the additional development time, probably nugatory effort to get ahead of the curve for customers, got so heavily involved in public testing, driving up numbers, but then wanted to be very well developed for end of year. And what I've seen is genuinely unrepresented taxpayers using Free Agent without Free Agent sending them my way, right? Just organically meeting people who this works for and seeing end of year processes that are easier and less work, because people aren't having to wait all of the year to then do all of the return at the end of the year. And people will say, well, there's loads of different examples. I get that, but the proof is in the pudding. Free Agent can show you that. So I've sort of swerved the Scotland question a wee bit, but I just thought I would pay a bit of credit to the sheer amount of work that you've put into the whole product, but in particularly getting ahead of the game in the end of the year product.
I think Scotland's had the Scottish element. I remember there was a joke at Fab that was it MTD. Anybody north of Newcastle was the best at MTD in the country, is what I think a few people were saying. It seems to have been a bit of a dream team up there. So congratulations to our cohort up in Scotland.
Oh, I was only jesting.
Yeah,
I don't
did
want
that
to
answer your question, though, Stu?
Yeah. I'm just joking. I mean, the vast majority of people at Free Agent aren't Scottish either. We are a UK company. I thought we'll start with a serious question.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, have you got Nick Moss? Have you got a serious question for Craig?
Yeah, I appreciate. This hasn't been without its bumps in the road, right? But I think that to the point where we're at and to get it live was always going to be difficult, Craig. And hats off to you. But if you were to look back at it and say, what are you personally most proud of to get to this point internally? What would that most proud moment be for you?
I guess it's a great question, and I'll answer a bit, but I think that what I go to is, so I had a session in Edinburgh yesterday with the head of external, and we mapped out everything that has to come. Testing end of year, sign up, Q1, POA, end of year, new cohorts. I could go on, right? To be honest with you, we're at a false dawn. We're at the start of something. There's a lull before the real work. And I'm not just saying that to sort of give an answer, actually. I think I have to be really focused in. The job's not even half done. We've got the hard parts out. The hard yards are yet to come. That said, though, when I came in, I'll just be really frank with everybody, because there'd been deferrals and inherited a team that were really low. They were doing some great work behind the scenes, and it felt like that work wasn't getting to see. So, in many ways, I could just use the work that colleagues were doing and get on the right front foot with that. So seeing the engagement levels of colleagues coming to work, being happier and feeling like they're making progress was the thing that was by far the best for me. The second thing is that I'm most proud of is some of the new relationships. I've been in the industry longer than people know, but I've been around. I won't tell you everything I've done over the years, because if you don't like any, you'll say, see, he screws things up. But on a serious note, like, I have met so many new people. I've met thousands of, and I think for me, one of the most pleasing things is the bookkeepers I've met as well, because I wasn't, up to the last 3 years, I wasn't incredibly close to the bookkeeping industry. I feel like I've learned more about that industry than what I ever possibly knew, and all my understanding of the industry was just out of whack from what it actually was, and how up for helping people there. So I guess they're just some reflections that I would have.
Thank you, Craig. We're at that time now, though, gentlemen, where we are going to say a big thank you to Nick Moss from Taxcalc and Engager and Stu McEwan from Free Agent. I would like to invite you both guys just to say anything as a final goodbye or a final get this done today kind of thing. So Nick Moss, thank you so much, Nick. Absolute pleasure as always.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for having me. Yeah, absolutely. If you take anything from today, the session that Craig and Nicholas are going to go through next, that's your big thing. Get your clients signed up. But once they're signed up, use Taxcalc and use Free Agent. That's what I would say.
And join accountants therapy, Nick. You forgot that one too, but thanks.
That's a given. Sorry, Robyn.
There wouldn't be an accountants therapy if it wasn't for Taxcalc in that session. So really, you can take full credit for everything we see today.
Always, yeah.
You can take credit too if you like, Craig.
Maybe.
Go on, Stu, give us your closing words.
Yeah, I think my closing words are, thanks everyone for having us. Definitely pro free agent and Taxcalc, as Nick says there. A huge thanks to Craig and HMRC for where we're at today and accountants therapy. And from a personal one for me, just a big congrats to you, Robyn, for winning those recent awards. It was one of the best things of the year, so congrats on that.
Thank you. It was a reflection on the community effort altogether. So thank you for being part of that as well. Thank you, guys. See you later. See you at 4 if you can. Oh, tie's coming off. The tie's coming off from Nick. There's a fair few questions that are coming through on the chat. I think would be useful to just get through, because I think this is evidently a really good point for people to be able to throw these kind of questions at you, Craig and Nick Atkinson. The first one is we've seen some problems with HMRC systems over the last couple of days. There's been problems with submitting self-assessments and different bits and bobs. How confident are you in the resilience of the HMRC systems come 7th of August? Are you expecting to see a slow trickle of submissions in, or are you expecting to see the bulk of submissions going straight to or around the 7th of August particularly?
Yeah,
I don't know who that's the best question for.
I'll kick us off, and to be honest with Sarah, who's going to join us, I don't know if Sarah's on. I'm going to introduce the sort of hidden heroes behind MTD. Sarah's the technical director and runs the live service, and she's the sort of person that Nick speaks to if there's been an issue and stuff.
You've been amazing.
I'm trying not to use the word confident because you slag me for using the word confident too much. So part of my job is making sure that you can build a service. So this is a new service that my experience is building a service that can scale. So we brought in probably the most used service in the furlough scheme in the history of a government service in terms of transactions per session. So if a system was going to break, it was a pandemic system. Systems have issues, they have teething problems. We've done 3 sort of big things. We stressed and test what we call the non-functional, so all the things that make the system work, and we do that through synthetic code and using modern tools that make sure we stress test it within an inch of its life. Where we have issues, there tends to be a common denominator, which is older legacy systems or integration layers that mean that we run current systems in old tech and they're quite hard to keep running. So I'm not saying there won't ever be issues with MTD. Of course, IT systems have issues. We've done lots of that. I think the other thing is we've been able to, through public testing, get 5,000 quarterly updates in there. We're up at 250 end of years. We need more than that. So again, we consolidate the synthetic, non-functional and all that with it. So I think it's a huge priority. It would be incredibly embarrassing for me if we go live and the systems fall over. So it has taken up a huge amount of my personal time and the team's time, and we've got experts that do all of that. But you can never say never on it.
So you're saying that the chances of the HMRC computers burning down is about 1%?
Yeah, less than.
There's still hope.
On your question on quarterly updates, so if you take a step back, right, we're sitting at 18,000 sign-ups, right? And I think we'll be, over half the population by August will have signed up. So we'll be somewhere between the lowest projections, about 400,000, the highest projections, up about 600 odd thousand. So the middle line is, and we expect that sign up to ramp up quite heavily July to August, and we expect that that the majority of those quarterly updates will be done in the week in the run up. But actually, what we've seen in testing is that quite a few people have been filing their quarterly updates by the deadline. Some people just after as well. So obviously, we want to encourage people to get into the way of the 7th of August. But there is also the soft landing period in the first year as well.
So we have got another couple of questions in terms of scope of MTD and plans to go beyond the 20,000. Do you want to address that quickly? Are there any plans to bring MTD beyond 20,000, beyond just the self-employed and landlords for now?
So there is no current work going on either to expedite partnerships which are currently not being delivered, or further cohorts. I think we need to learn for this cohort, and we need to keep everything under constant review. I think that's a general principle. We need to be open-minded. We need to see how it's going. We need to genuinely learn. And I guess for me, and this isn't the HMRC answer, I think one of the issues with MTD is it addresses the issue we're trying to address after the fact. I would love a world where individuals and businesses, if they're businesses, start some of these great practices when they start to build their business for day one, so you don't have to retrofit good bookkeeping or using great accountants or bookkeepers if they choose to do so. A lot of people get into the bad habits and then have to correct it. I just wonder if there's a voluntary opportunity through MTD that people start running their, I'm going to use the word business. I know a lot of people are in the businesses, but we'll use it just for ease. For me, when I'm out there seeing that change in behaviour, I think to myself, how much better would it be if people just started their life with good practices or a great tax agent or a good accountant or doing MTD-like behaviours rather than try to retrofit it on them 2 years down the road. That's not an official policy. It's just a personal view.
I will make one suggestion. Can we please not extend to partnerships, because we've spent the last couple of years trying to tell people partnerships are not included. So if we could just
questions still come up in webinars, don't they?
Exactly.
No immediate. There's nothing I'm doing to deliver on that at the moment. The focus is all about what we're doing.
Thank you for answering that one, Craig. Jonathan has joined us, so I'm conscious that, sorry, we've let you sit for a little bit without introducing you. So welcome, Jonathan. It's nice to have you with us. Would you be able to introduce yourself to anybody that doesn't know you and tell us a little bit about your MTD journey?
Yeah, so I'm Jonathan Athow. I go by the wonderful job title of Director General for Strategy and Policy at HMRC. So I'm one of the senior responsible owners for Making Tax Digital. I have been on a journey. I think I sort of started working on Making Tax Digital about 3 years ago now. So a little bit after we announced the last delay to the implementation timetable. My part of HMRC really owns a lot of the sort of, is in the job title, a lot of the policy work around Making Tax Digital. So my starting point was kind of making certain, did we have a good alignment between the technology and processes we were building for Making Tax Digital and policy. And so we have made changes to some of that. So one of the things we did was make the change to cumulative quarterly updates. So that's been the work we've been on. I've really enjoyed working on Making Tax Digital. I think it's been, and actually this webinar, I think, and today is a really good example of kind of how people have come together around it. One of the things, a slide I used to talk about with Making Tax Digital was there were four key groups of people who needed to work together for Making Tax Digital to work. There was HMRC. We needed to build the technology. Craig has already talked a bit about that. We needed to get the policy right, the guidance right. There's the software industry, needed to step up and make certain there is a good range of products. We know that it's a very diverse group of taxpayers who are going to be brought in to Making Tax Digital over these three cohorts. And we need software that's right for everyone. So I think that was the second group. There was the agent community, whether that's accountants or bookkeepers. This was going to be a really big change in workflows for that group of people. So they needed to be ready. And ultimately, the end taxpayer, whether they're unrepresented or represented, there will be a change for them in kind of how they operate. So for me, one of the things that I think has been really encouraging, and there have been differences of views. I'm not going to say that everyone's completely aligned on everything, but actually, we've worked together, worked out how we identify issues, escalate them, deal with them. I think that sense of community, I think is going to be really important as we go through the rollout. There's bound to be some things we learn from the first year, and then we'll need to sort of work out how we work together going forward. So that sense of community, that sense of let's solve some problems, I think is really important. I mean, one of the things, we have kept ideas coming up from various people, so I'm very glad we're seeing ideas still coming up about how we can improve guidance, how we can sort of, change our language. One of the small things that came up, I think, with during the registration journey was about how long you'd been in business, and we asked questions around that. And again, people said, "Why are you asking this? Is there a different way of asking the question?" And it was a relatively small change, but actually, I think really helped with the sign up journey. So there are little things like that I think are really, really important.
So sorry, go on, Nick.
No, I was going to say that's been the great thing. My experience is HMRC have been listening and implementing changes. It's all very well having people testing within the pilot. People, accountants, bookkeepers, individuals need to be patient. It's a complete new system. It's a beast out there, and unless it's tested, we're not going to know what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think people need to understand that, and not just kind of if something doesn't submit, just turn to HMRC and go, it's not working.
Yeah,
we need that trial and error.
Exactly, and one of the things we've been doing, is looking at that sign-up journey, and kind of at the moment, I think we've got a sort of 99% plus success with the sign-ups, but we do need to spot where there are issues, and then go back to the system and say what's causing that and how can we fix it. So again, everybody is learning as we go through this, and it's not just technology change. I think the sort of issue, and I think I've heard a lot, is this is a different way of working and a different conceptualization of kind of how the tax system works. So there's a lot in this that I think is much more than a technology program. It's a changing ways of working, and I think that's always challenging because again, you don't really know until you get it up and running. One of the things the penny really dropped for me on making tax digital was when I saw some of the software demos early on, and I could then think, okay, I can see how this works, and it's why we wanted to encourage people into the test phase. Because I think until you see it as agents, only when you actually see the test phase can you actually see, this is how it works. This is going to be what I need to know here. This is going to be a pinch point, or this is an opportunity. I think it's only when you actually do it for real you'll see all those different elements.
Jonathan, you were talking about the 4 different elements of people that need to come together on this. Have you found that there is a particular element of that has been more difficult to engage than others? I'm assuming you're not going to say HMRC have been difficult to engage over this, but have you, and I'm kind of assuming you're not going to say software. Maybe my question really is, has it been harder to engage the agent community, or has it been harder to engage taxpayers direct?
I think the area that is perhaps is harder to get our handle on is the individual taxpayers. Now, the good news, if you follow Craig on LinkedIn, is the updates we're seeing suggests we are seeing quite a lot of broadly the same proportion of people are eligible. The sign-ups are in the same proportion between individuals unrepresented and represented. So that is encouraging, but it's a bit of an unknown. It's a much more diverse group of people. We know the sort of sectors they're in, so we've been targeting construction because we know that's a particular area. So I think that's been challenging. I think one of the things that's been really, really encouraging with the conversations with agents, and you sort of see it at Accountex and other big shows, is the questions we're getting asked now have gone from some quite conceptual, basic ones, right through to kind of the real detail of how we make it work. And so I think that's been really encouraging that people are processing what this is, really starting to ask themselves the questions: what does this mean for me? What are the good things I ought to be doing? What are the things I ought to be more, looking out for? So I think that has been a real step change. I'm certain, as always, whenever you communicate, you think you've communicated something 1,000 times, and you always find somebody who's not quite got the message. So, the job of communication is never done, and I think it's really important for us. But
we were talking about that a little bit earlier about client communication, that Tom's had the experience where he sent out his communications and still having some people come back and say, what's MTD then even though we're doing our best to communicate with the clients.
And I would just say, look, I'm really grateful. I mean, I think the work that's been done across the community, I think has been brilliant. I look at some of the representative body guidance, and I think that's been really brilliant. There are times when I think either you as agents or the representative bodies can say things that we can't. You have, particularly representative bodies can really help agents about how they should cost up their services, how they should approach things, letters of engagement, all of that sort of thing. Those are absolutely important, but again, not something we can really do as an organisation. So I'm really grateful for all the work that's gone out in the community. I think it's really, really promising, and thanks to everyone involved.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on one point that came up quite a bit for me at Accountex, is that a lot of people that I was speaking to on the 2 sessions hadn't even enrolled any clients yet, and we touched on how important that was. The segmentation which Tom touched on earlier. It's not just about doing your segmentation for the £50,000 cohort. It's looking beyond that, looking at the 30, looking at the 20. Because then you know exactly what you're in for by way of your workflows that are going to increase. Now, something which I don't know if we're going to talk about now or later, Robyn, but for me, the soft landing really was very much welcomed and does alleviate a lot of pressure this first year. I don't know if there's any scope for extending a soft landing after this first year or not, but certainly it would be very useful if we could implement it, or something that will allow people to embrace those additional cohorts, particularly with the pressure of the unrepresented that are going to start, leaning on accountants and needing accountants.
So let me never say never, I think, is probably the short answer here. But I think there are some issues I wanted to sort of touch on. Firstly, we think the current penalty regime, and I know, Robyn, you asked a question about whether it's fair or not. The current penalty regime is designed to not penalise, individual, missing a quarterly update, or we've got 4 penalty points before that kicks in. So we think there's already an element of sort of softness, in that regime overall. So. Just to sort of give you a sort of sense of kind of, that's our sort of starting point. And it is a bit of a double-edged sword, because I am seeing some, accountants saying, well, actually, because it's a soft landing, actually, I'm just not going to bother in the first year. We do want people to engage, because I think that point about workflow is really important. One of the things I've been talking about is understanding, your workflow. There's this year, you've then got a next cohort coming in, and the cohort after that, you need to think about your end of year as well as the quarterly update. So you need to think about that whole pattern. So we want to get people in. I think it was the right thing to do for the first year, because it is so new.
Sure.
I think the question about second and subsequent cohorts is a slightly different question, but not kind of where we are at the moment. But again, we will have to learn from this year and reflect on kind of what's worked well, what we will do in the future. So not saying never, but I think at the moment we'd really like to sort of, think about kind of learn the lesson from the first year. And it has had, as I said, there's a double-edged sword. It takes out some of the risk for people. And I know there are concerns about, people are worried about this, and I don't want people to be unnecessarily worried about quarterly updates. But at the same time, I don't also want to look like it's a voluntary system either. So it's a real challenge and a balance we need to get right.
Yeah, no, I have had other accountants say to me, look, we're giving this deadline to our clients to present their records to us. Some of it will be available straight away on software packages and reconciled up to date. But there's the question out there, which clients are we going to prioritize to make sure we get submitted before that quarterly update? Is it going to be the same one that's submitted last minute or late every quarter just because they come in a week before that deadline? So it's, there are questions around, what are concerns around meeting that deadline?
Yeah, and I think, again, we want to get people sort of really thinking about this. And so I think the first year, again, it's why really encouraging people to get in early to think about exactly how you're going to plan that. If you come into it later in the process, you'll only have potentially 2 or 3 quarters, or maybe even only 1 quarter to get that perfected. And I just think, again, the earlier people engage with it, the earlier they can think about what's right for them, what's right for their clients.
I think it's really encouraging that you at least giving us the dignity of saying that you will listen. So thank you very much for that. That's certainly something that we have seen in recent times, that you guys are listening to the types of things that we're facing as an industry, and any listening has been good, right? Whether you act on it or not, just listening in the first place is a really important step.
We had the scenario this week, Robyn, where we're talking about different scenarios, and there's some where you think, the answer is this. And Jonathan reminded me, and it was in a call where we were talking to the admin burdens board at HMRC, that we need to see how things go as well. We need to keep an eye on it. And that's the SRO and Director General telling me, the director of the programme, you may have a strong view on something, but it's also your job to keep an eye on things. So it's genuine. It is true. I think just very quickly, just reflecting on that, I've been doing a 5-bar gate with accountants, and I do have this worry. I think it's a timing issue. I have two worries. One is that because we're now in the 25-26 end of year cycle, the ability to manage those workflows and get the 27 cohort ready is more natural. Lots of accountants have just boxed in 2026 these are just people that are giving me honest answers. So I think as an industry, to say, actually look at 26 and 27 in the round and look at those flows, because you've got once in a year opportunity to start some of that wider communication. The other minor thing that worries me is this group's done a brilliant job, but I have a slight worry that, are we reaching saturation point where it's the same people? How do we draw in some new blood? This group ignited new people, new energy, people that maybe weren't as comfortable with the bigger set piece events, or maybe wanted to voice their view. How do we draw more people in that actually are maybe standing at the sidelines, that can talk to, that have a wider network, that informal network in the UK? I do have a slight worry we're saturating with the same people in the industry. How do we cast our net further? Question for us all to answer.
Thank you, Craig. I'm conscious of time at the moment, because we want to get a video that Sam Wood has recorded for us, shown to everyone, to give you all confidence on that sign-up journey. It's an excellent video. But just before we do that, Phillip and Sarah have joined us. Before we make them watch the video and just sit and look, and we can all watch them watching the video, could you each introduce yourselves and a very little bit about your MTD journey and where you fit into the jigsaw puzzle, if that's okay? Sarah, if you go first. Oh, we haven't got sound from Sarah. Oh dear. Oh, Sarah, I'm sorry. Should we come back to you in a second?
She's the technical guru for MTD. Take nothing by the lack of sound. Okay, take nothing by the lack of
Go
sound.
for it in the chat, guys. Phillip, do you want to go first? You're muted at the moment, so you need to.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Robyn. Can I just check you can hear me?
Yes, and goodbye to Jonathan, who's just said he needs to go. Thank you very much for joining us today, Jonathan. It's much appreciated. Yeah.
No worries. Thanks, and look, good morning, everybody. And look, thanks for the opportunity to join this at the last moment. So I'm Phil Stanfield, and currently my role in MTD is I head the data migration team. So a lot of the back end things in kind of moving our customers from the service that they need to, in order to service that supports the front end MTD piece as well. I've actually only just rejoined the program. I rejoined just at the start of this year, but actually, I do have a long history with MTD, as I was part of it for about 5 years previously, back when I left in 2020. So before I moved on to do different things, still in the government digital space, and a lot in the data space, and now back with MTD for the final push to get us through there.
Great, and thank you very much for joining us today. Let's try Sarah.
Hey, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. That's fine.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. That produces no confidence in my level of ability to lead the technical delivery team of MTD.
Don't worry, we'll use it against you in future. That's fine.
So I'm Sarah Grover, and like I say, I lead the technical delivery team for Making Tax Digital. So my teams are all the project managers and the business analysts working really carefully behind the scenes to build the service for everyone to utilise for MTD. I've actually worked on MTD as a whole for about 8 years, so I've actually worked here for a really long time. So I was one of the technical delivery leads for MTD VAT. and then moved on about 5 years ago to work on MTD ITSA. So I've got a really long background in terms of the sort of technical delivery side of MTD. And Craig doesn't normally let us out from behind the technical scenes to come and talk to you. So it's really nice to come and speak to you.
Nice to finally meet you face to face as well, Sarah.
Yes, we've exchanged many an email.
You have been amazing, honestly. The support, like as I said earlier, I'll echo it again. The support I personally have had from HMRC has been second to none. So thank you.
Just a quick one. Why I kind of wanted to show, you think, well, why? It's just like, if there is an issue, Sarah fixes it. As we look at the customers that don't sign up, we will later this year have to migrate the customers and sign them up. And we've not put a specific date on that, and I know that creates a bit of uncertainty, and hopefully I've set the case as to why you need to sign up, and today does that. Phil's the guy that will migrate those customers. So I wanted you to feel, get a sense of two of the most critical roles in the programme, and it's the teams that do the work. So partly that was what we were able to do. The other thing was because poor Sam is very ill. Sometimes it feels like Sam, Gemma and I are the outward face, but the real stars of the team are the people you don't always see.
However, Sam is the one that came and recorded a very special demonstration for us, walking through that sign-up process. So now we're going to test my technical abilities as I'm going to share that video with us. Or you're going to have to bear with me one sec, because we went through a few different versions. So if we can't hear sound, can somebody please tell me that? If panelists can mute while we're watching this, that would be much appreciated. So this video is about 15 minutes long, showing the full sign-up journey. It will be available on YouTube afterwards, so that anybody that wants to replay it can. It's an incredible resource, so we didn't want to ring-fence that. If you have any questions and you're doing this along with Sam as you go, please pop them in the chat. You have got probably the best team that you could possibly have sitting, waiting to answer your questions on sign up as we go. Thank you.
This is the MTD sign up service. So we're going to walk through a hypothetical journey and show you the screens that are in there. So make sure that you have a lot of this information ready. Again, I mentioned earlier, but I did a little crib sheet. Hopefully that will help you. We've got all of the information that you need throughout the sign-up journey as part of that. And Tom and Robyn, I think, are sending it out to the people who are signed up, or you'll get it as part of the event. And then afterwards you can go away and you can make sure that you've got everything that you need. So first name, last
great,
name.
Sam. We've got it on being done this afternoon, so it should be ready for Accountex. So thank you for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. So make sure that you've got to hand first name, last name, national insurance number, date of birth. That's the core information for each client that you're going to need to help us to identify who it is that you're trying to sign up. And then you get a overview. So check your inputs. This is what you've just told us. And at this point, when you click continue, we are going to do a check of that client and check whether or not they can and should be signed up. These are the new screens. These are the new parts of the presentation which I've added since the last time that I showed you this. So if you want to see what you'll get at different steps, this is it. So if you get an error message at this point, this message, your client is exempt from making tax digital for income tax. HMRC has agreed that your client is digitally excluded. This means that you do not need to use it unless your circumstances change. So Robyn, you asked about this earlier on. This is one of the screens that fire. So the agent will receive this message if the client has requested a digital exemption and it's been approved. So we're marking that on the system. If they then try and sign up for some reason, we're playing that back to them. They can't sign up. Second one, the client can't use making tax digital, right? So we're looking at some reason that they can't come in. So we've listed some of them on the screen there. We talked about them before. They haven't submitted a tax return within the last 2 years. They've never submitted a tax return. They're insolvent, bankrupt. Somebody's acting on their behalf, a deputyship, power of attorney. Those things that we talked about before, they can't use MTD because of the information we had on the eligibility slide. They're going to get this message. Yeah.
I'm going to pipe up on this one because I had this error message for one of my clients. And just to, in my case, it was because the 24-25 tax return hadn't been processed yet. So just be aware that you can also get this message, not because there hasn't actually been a tax return submitted, but if it hasn't hit HMRC systems yet. So sometimes you may need to call and get that jollied along.
That's a really
That
good
will
point. Yeah,
solve
so
that one.
we're saying we haven't got a tax return, but it might just be moving its way through the system. So if you know you have, you can give us a ring and sort that out, as you said there, Robyn. So thank you. Your client is exempt from making tax digital. We have two variations of this. They're the same, but they're for different groups. So the customer receives this if they've got the SA 109, they've got trust income, averaging adjustments, foster carers, and they're claiming that qualifying care income allowance. These are automatic exemptions that last until April 2027. So they're not enduring, they're not forever, they're for a year, right? And then again, you'll get this screen, clients exempt from making tax digital, if they've got some of the exemptions that last beyond April 2027. So if they get married couples, or if they claimed married couples allowance, if they're a minister of religion, Lloyd's underwriter, blind person's allowance, etc. So these are the types of screens that are going to fire when you get to that check and before you actually go fully into the sign-up journey. If for some reason we think the client aren't or shouldn't be signing up for MTD. Sorry, Tom.
I was going to say, if we're authorised to act on 64.8, can we ring HMRC to say what criteria is flagging to say that they're exempt for MTD? Just because we had an example the other day where a client had applied for exemption themselves and actually forgotten they'd done it, and it was a bit embarrassing for the accountant at the time trying to figure out why they were exempt.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've got authority to act and you can call us up, then obviously we have our HMRC customer service team. I think Robyn and I'm not sure Tom, but I know quite a few people in accountants therapy have used that to great success. They are highly trained. They are ring fenced around the back. They've been working throughout the public and private beta, so they'll be able to help you with anything like that. But 9 times out of 10, I think, and hopefully these bits of information will help people to deduce exactly what's gone on. So check the tax return, check their status. Before ringing us, I would say just make sure that you can give the tyres a bit of a kick before picking the phone up. But let's assume that they don't have any of that. So you'll get this screen instead, and the check will come back and say that this client can actually sign up. Yeah, so they're going to confirm that the client can be signed up. And after this is when you're going to start to make sure that you've got that information ready. So the details of the business or property, trades and property businesses, particularly the start date. If it started in the last 2 years, we'll show you some of that. Any trading names or addresses, the nature of the trade, etc. And then you can continue to sign up this client. You've got a reminder here, so it reminds people of the need to have software. I think all of the agents understand that, but particularly if you're going through this as a customer, once you're into this part of the flow, we're going to remind customers that they do need to get commercial third-party software. They don't have to have it at this point. They don't have to link it, but they have to acknowledge that. So they have to say they either do have it or no, but I'm going to get it later. I'm going to get for my client later. It's just that behavioral and mental nudge to make sure that people go, oh yeah, I do actually need to go away and do that. We've got the link to the HMRC MTD software choices tool on there too. And then this one, so we're always showing people the ability to sign up for current year or next year. Of course, our focus right now is all on the mandated year, so 26, 27. So we're asking people when they want to sign up for. Particularly, this was useful last year when we were allowing people to sign up early, but we also had the beta still going. So you tell us the year in which you want to start MTD. And then we explain the fact that when they sign up to MTD and when they opt to come in, what they're also doing is agreeing and electing to join what we call penalty reform or new MTD penalties. Of course, we talk about the relaxation for 26, 27 on there. Some people call that the soft landing. No penalty points for late quarterly updates during the first year. But you are coming under that new legislation, and this is part of that legislative process to gather the consent to come in to penalty reform. So we agree and continue. And then we get to the taxpayer overview screen. Now, this is the hub of sign up, and this is going to be the thing that you're trying to fill in. So Robyn mentioned earlier that you come to this and you need to double check everything that's already pre-populated and check if anything's right or wrong or that you need to add or remove. So we are going to play back as much information as we can that we already have. So based on your last tax return, any trades are going to populate here, and we're going to ask you to check over and make sure that the information that we have is still relevant and complete, and give you the opportunity to add any further details. There are 4 things they can do. So they can add further details about an existing thing that's been already put in. So they can change the sole trader business, which is already showing. They could add a new or second sole trade business, and they could add UK property or foreign property business information as well. In our example, we're only going to do actions 1 and 3. So we're going to add further details about the sole trade, and we're going to add a UK property business. So we go back up and we click to add extra details to the sole trade. Currently showing as incomplete, and we click the add details information. Please, when you do this, understand that what you put in during sign up is really important, because it has a downstream consequence on what you will see in the future when you log into HMRC services or when you log into your MTD software and we talk about what your obligations are. So make sure that the name of the client's business is relevant. Please do not just put the text string, for example, own name, or put their own name, particularly if you have got multiple sole trades. You are going to confuse everybody, including yourself and your agent and us. We will be looking at what is entered here and using that information, because part of sign up sets up the digital footprint on our new system. And if you log back in and it just says you have got an obligation for own name, you have got a second obligation for own name, and you've got a third obligation for no own name, you are going to be so confused, and you are not going to know which obligation relates to which trade. So make these relevant. That's my plea to everybody. Help yourself, help your accountants, and help us.
Did I see on LinkedIn, Sam, that someone had done that? They needed to change the name and they contacted HMRC over the phone. Is that something that HMRC can change if someone has already made that mistake?
We can, but it is a bit cumbersome, and you cannot do it digitally at the moment, Tom. So get that right. We are delivering change of circumstances in a few months' time. So you will then be able to go in and change it. But right now, if you set this up wrong and you link it to your software, you'll be pulling your hair out because you won't know which way to go, and you will have to call us. And that just clogs up our systems as well and takes time away from things that we really want to be helping people with. So let's make sure that we make this relevant. So you're going to add the nature of your client's trade, and you're going to add a really relevant, understandable client business name. Yeah. And you're going to answer the question about when this information started. Was it before the 2-year check or after? So if the information was within the 2-year check, then we're going to ask you to tell us when it started. In this example, we will add a date within the last 2 years. So you're going to add your start date in here. If you are unsure and you don't know whether it was the 5th or the 1st or the 10th, but you know it was about January 2 years ago, don't worry. It's not the end of the world. Make your best estimate, right? What this is driving is the MTD latency check. By latency, what we mean is we're always looking 2 years back at the tax return to define a business's MTD status, yeah? So all we're using this for, primarily, is to drive that information about whether this trade that you're putting in should be MTD mandated and therefore penalty bearing, or just be a voluntary add, yeah? So don't panic too much, but try and be as accurate as you can. You can check your answers, and that's done for the sole trader business. You then go back to this taxpayer overview page, and you've got the opportunity now to add anything else, but we said we were going to do UK property, so we'll go and we'll do that action. We'll add a UK property. We're asking the same question again, so we're checking the 2-year latency rule. So did it start in the last 2 years? In this case, we're saying it did start in the last 2 years, and so we don't have to do much more. We can check our answers. Oh, sorry, it didn't. It started before. Apologies. It started before the 2-year check. Therefore, we don't have to give the specific date. Check our answers. And we're done for this person. So we're not adding a foreign property business. There's not a second sole trade. That's everything that we need to tell the system and set up for MTD purposes. So we go back to our home screen, and we do a detailed check of all the answers we've given. So it's going to bring everything up, and it's telling us what we answered for, whether or not we had software, the year in which we want to sign up, the information we've given about our sole trade, and the information that we've given about our property business. And that bottom green button, it's got some wording before that that basically says, this is the end, guys. You click confirm and continue at this point. You're signing them up to MTD, so make any changes at this point before you do that if you need to. Let's assume it's all right, so we click confirm and continue, and we've signed up. That's it, we're done. So we get this sign up complete screen. You can print or save this, so you've got the option to PDF it and save it for later. We know people like to do that. Tells you a little bit about what happens next. It links off some of that good guidance that we've talked about. It reminds people about their update deadlines, the calendar periods and standard periods, and it links across to that Use Making Tax Digital guidance, which is all the nitty-gritty of how you actually do quarterly updates, keep digital records, send end of year, etc. And then the button at the bottom, because a lot of you will be doing multiple of these, is sign up with another client. So you hit that, takes you back to the start of the sign up journey, and we're good to go. So we've done both of those key actions at this point. And again, we mentioned this earlier, you're still not going to see a client list here. So what you need to do is you then need to go and you need to look at the clients one by one. So we go back to our agent services account page. We scroll down to the Making Tax Digital bit, just like we did, but instead of clicking on sign up your clients, we now click on manage your client details, and this time it asks for the UTR. So we signed up with a Nino, we're now entering the UTR, and it will bring you to this lovely manage your self-assessment page. This will be different depending on whether you're a main or a supporting agent, but here you're a main agent, so you can see everything. This is the same module that a customer would see. They would sign in using their personal tax account or their business tax account. They will end up here as well. And I've put a little hint at the bottom there, but we are making some quite substantial changes to this soon. I can't talk about them in detail, but in the next few weeks, what you'll see is user research driven improvements to the manage your self-assessment page, making it a lot more action focused, making sure that people understand the next action which is coming, that they need to focus on more, a little bit more use of color to identify where things are overdue and driving them to that next key action all of the time. So continuing to improve things, continuing to add things. We've got more to talk about in the next few weeks. Our pace of delivery is quite shocking at the minute, shockingly good, I should say, before you clip that up.
Yeah, you were quick there, Sam.
But that's it, guys. That's the end of sign up. I hope that was really useful. We've got lots of good things to come. I hope this helps people, and I hope that the day is a really big success. So thank you very much for doing it for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you so much. So hopefully now is the time, if you haven't already been following that journey while you're signing up your clients today, then do it now and pop your comments in our chat box so we can help you along. If you come stuck at any point, we'll see how we can troubleshoot. Thank you, everybody. What do we think of that?
I mean, amazing. I probably signed up the majority of my clients back in November last year, but to hear and watch that again is such a great refresher. There's little things that I missed, like clients with multiple self-employments not putting in their business name, which I'm then having to sort of change and replicate, which has caused a headache. So had I had that video earlier on, it would have made a difference for me. But again, listening to it now, and I'll probably listen to it again in a few months' time, it really is quite refreshing. I think people that haven't enrolled their clients really need to have sight of that sign-up process, because it is great. So thank you, Sam, who I think has joined, but is obviously off cam because he's not feeling great. So
just to remind people. Yeah. Well, poor Sam, but thank you very much, Sam, for that. And just remind people that is available on our YouTube channel. It is 12 o'clock now, so it's time for us to say a big thank you for Craig and his team, or should I say Jonathan and his team, for coming this morning to afternoon to talk to us about their MTD journey. Thank you so much for coming today, guys, and I'm sure we will feed back to you soon, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hey,
just a big thank you from me. Can you say a big hello to your next guests?
Are you staying on for a bit, aren't you, Craig?
Oh well, that would be nice. I didn't know whether I was. Happy to. Thank you. Big thanks for you guys that driving the messages. Hugely welcome from me and the team. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Welcome, Amy and Aaron. Absolutely brilliant to have you with us today. I don't know if you've been able to join us this morning, but the general way that we've been going with this is to say, if you could kindly introduce yourself a little bit to anyone that may not have heard of you, which I think for both of you might be a stretch, but if you can also tell us a little bit about your MTD journey from your perspective, that would really help us set the scene for the rest of the conversation. Amy, do you want to go first?
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me. It's noon on like the hottest day of the year. I'm Amy Copeland. I'm the Chief Exec at the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers, so one of the representative bodies we've been referencing so far. I gotta say, for me, I think my thinking about making tax digital changed at the exact same moment that you set up MTD Therapy. I was there on that webinar. There were 1,000 accountants quietly losing their minds, let's say. And I just thought, gosh, maybe we need to talk more about how bookkeepers can help, how this absolutely plays into the hands of bookkeepers. So I think we sort of shared that kind of inflection point, if you will. And and we've been talking on stages. Craig knows all too well that I've said it should be called Making Bookkeeping Mandatory. It's not really about digitizing tax. This is all about systems, rhythm, all of the stuff that bookkeepers have been working on for years. So I'm delighted that HMRC has caught up.
We were really pleased to start our day today with a bookkeeping representation because exactly as you have said, it really is the foundation of making tax digital, the foundation of good client practice as well. So thank you very much for joining us. Aaron?
Yeah, first of all, congratulations on this. This has absolutely been brilliant. Yeah, I can't take my eyes out. If anything, I've not done enough work today. So thank you for that. Thank you for providing a distraction.
Stop trying. Stop trying. The only thing to do today is sign up your clients. And you can have a break.
Exactly. But my name is Anne Patrick. Thank you very much for having me. QuickBooks chap, you might know me as that. I'm part of the Asset Accountant. You might know me from that one. But my MTD journey, I was part of the Alpha. Now, I don't know the exact numbers, but when I was part of it, there was 5 of us that we would have contact with of like filing all that time at the time. So I was in the right early stages trying to get my head around what this was going to be, trying to support the software that I was working with at the time, trying to kind of figure that out and everything else. And my claim to fame is, I think, and maybe I doubt they'll ever be able to clarify or not clarify this. I think I'm the first person to ever file in VR. So an MTD product in VR, and probably the last person to ever even bother to do that as well. So there you go. That's my claim to fame on my MTD.
Good claim to fame to have, though, Aaron. I mean, I'd have that on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, exactly. I was there happily getting my VR headset on, filing away, proving that, from an MTD point of view, the actual quarterly submissions, you can do it on any device.
There we go. Heard it here first. So you guys, we have got 5-10 minutes of Craig still being here. Do you want to throw any questions at Craig? Craig, do you have any questions for Nick, Amy, or Aaron, or either Tom and I, if you want? So go on.
Go on, Aaron.
Yeah. I want to know at what point, because I know, Craig, and maybe you've told me this in confidence, I'm not allowed to say this out loud, but too late, you're here now. So, sorry. But I know you had a very big not requirement, but you wanted to make sure that this MTD also brought with it a mandatory of having a bank account. How far down the line was that conversation ever go, or was it just a case of it was too much to ask for? Because I think if as a practice owner, as I'm sure Amy would say from all her people as well, and everyone else on this call, like if we could have mandated that at the same time, I know it was a lot to ask for, but I think that would be a step in the right direction in terms of like just making this really, really, easy to kind of understand in terms of what the requirements was for MTD.
Joe, can I have a go at that one? So just for people, this is, should we have mandated the use of business banking as part of it? This is another one that isn't an official government policy paper. It's a Craig Ogilvie, that would have been a really good idea So I don't know if it's a good idea or not. It's probably up to the people in the call to tell me, but it smacked me right in the face. 2.5 years I've been around, and just watch it. The power of this job is I've been able to see all of this in live. I've met thousands of accountants, so many bookkeepers. I've seen it all work. I've seen it work not very well, work really well. I've seen, as I said, some end of years recently where the end of year process has been much easier, I swear, like compared to what these people were doing, hoarding up everything at the last minute and just doing some bookkeeping and chunking it through the year. And I know it won't always be like that, but very early it sort of did strike me, just because, particularly from a bookkeeping perspective, I hadn't really understood the power of having a business banking account, just the simplicity that it drives. So that was more a personal opinion than a government opinion. I don't think it actually, and Nick, I don't know if Nick's still on, whether it was key part of any of the consultations or any of the initial thought. It was a personal thing of why didn't we do it, but it was too late, by which point. So yeah, I think I was sharing that more of I wish I had thought of that or had done that, because it just seems, I'm sure there's loads of counter arguments as to why it would be a really bad idea. That's government delivery for you. There's never a perfect idea, but that was it really, Aaron, in a nutshell. And did you hear me also saying I was too young to remember the alpha?
You look like Davos back then, I think, didn't you, Craig?
I don't know if my filter is as good in Zoom as it is in Teams to get away with that joke, but yeah.
Aaron, you stay young and fresh.
Amy, you missed just some of my reflections on three of the biggest things that struck me as my team were quite low when I came in, because they did lots of deferrals, the NAO reports, and actually we're doing an incredible job, but the conditions just weren't right. So it's my job to help with the conditions. So it was seeing like the team grow come and go from strength to strength. The other two observations is that just genuinely the time I spent with bookkeepers, I hadn't spent time with bookkeepers until nearly 2.5 years ago. And the way I've been embraced with that industry and what I've learned has been, and I find it hard because we like to have quite a bit of banter and a bit of upbeat stuff, but I find it quite hard just to be nice.
Me in the chat.
Yeah, I find it hard to be nice.
Honestly, you pick these fights, Craig. You forget you've got to see Amy in a few weeks at another convention.
Amy brings the worst out in me because my inner immature child comes out, and I can't help but making jokes. But I have met all these bookkeepers and didn't get it at all, despite being in tax administration for 20 odd years, just the power and role of them. And then the third thing was, like, just because you weren't here to hear it, like the job's actually just starting. See, when you roll out everything we have to do in the next 18 to 24 months, the easy bit's done. We're actually now at the real delivery, and I don't want people to think we're sitting behind the sort of Whitehall throne of this is all done, it's all great. We've got a lull before a bigger job, which is actually land this thing, but I've got every confidence that we'll be able to do it. Yeah, that was it in a nutshell. So no direct questions for me, just to say hello to two people I've got lots of time for in the industry.
Yeah, well, congratulations. And, I think we all know that making tax digital works, doesn't it? If there's already the regular bookkeeping in the business, this is okay. This is a sort of sign-up challenge, yes. But, we all know the benefit of not having an annual stress point. The more that we can bring that into the real-time reality, and bookkeepers kind of sit on that data layer, don't they? So I think this has been great for bookkeepers, and I definitely caught part of the Kirsty and Natasha speaking earlier, representing the bookkeepers, and just saying, well, actually all of our clients are really well behaved. We've already trained them to give us all the stuff that we need. And the thing that really shone out of the chat of that is kind of epic iconic webinar where all the accountants were saying, I can't do this, was these accountants saying, I struggle enough already to get paid once a year. How am I going to get paid the same 4 times a year? And I kind of thought, but bookkeepers are getting paid that amount of money every single month. And for us, I think we kind of, when we started working with HMRC, I think HMRC was super pro bookkeepers, but for a different reason from us. I think HMRC in the beginning thought bookkeepers just charge less money, so it's better for small businesses. And actually a lot of bookkeepers are charging more money because they're there day in, day out helping with everything, really becoming that human API that connects the business with the hopes and dreams of the business owners, and also HMRC and the bank and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just so hard to log in. And that's the kind of thing they help with. But hopefully they're not. We don't think now of bookkeepers as great because they're cheaper than accountants. We actually understand what they're good at, and that kind of values.
I'm thinking there's a similarity with HMRC here. And since we've been live, whether you're an agent or whether you're a self-assessment customer, you can get through to help when you need it. You're not having to wait, and the people are very highly trained, which I think is not just we did that in testing. I've grew that out into live running, which I'm really proud of. We're running a bit behind in digital exemptions. We'll put a big push in to bring those into a quicker timescale. But the thing that I clocked, which is when people needed help, it was very easy for the people to interface with their bookkeeper. And then when I was sat at the accounting therapy dinner, like the stories are quite comical. The lens that I know everybody who wants to be user-centric will, but the lens you'll go to help clients, particularly if you like the client and there's an emotional factor. I was learning that, and it included obscene coming round the dinner table to help them and all sorts, but I make a slight joke about that. But this thing about it is when people need help, getting access to the help and not having to wait ages is a really powerful tool. And I think we've been able to, so far, touch wood, been able to help people with their MTD journey because they can get in touch with us. But with bookkeepers, it was a sense of actually they're so contactable, like they can talk to the much. For whatever reason, that was one of the things that I didn't quite get in the interaction with the client and customer thing.
I think as well, Craig, as accountants, we like to always remind clients, like, we're part of your business, we're there for you all the time, but we could go months without talking to a client, and then we're there when they need us. Bookkeepers are so integral to the success of a business, being able to go and move and do things and build their business, grow, focus on what they want to be doing and not doing the bookkeeping. They are such an integral part of that process, and without the bookkeeping, things can like rapidly fall apart. Is what I've always found. Is also when you're doing the year-end accounts or the tax return, if the bookkeeping isn't good, it's a nightmare. So finding a good bookkeeper that's going to look after you is honestly like gold dust. And I've found, like, on one hand, how many really good local bookkeepers I'm really happy to work with, and that is the hard part. Is it's such a highly skilled job, and I don't think enough. This is why I think I've had a real bee in my bonnet about the software vendors saying it's click of a button, bookkeeping's easy, you can do all of it from sat at home. Yeah, anybody can, but to be good at bookkeeping is a really difficult job. And I use the analogy all the time of going to B&Q and buying a chainsaw. It's easy for me to do, but I could knock my arm off, make a hash of the trees, and bookkeeping is no different to that. It's such an important feature.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, like the more regular invoicing, even for those smaller clients, really does help from an accountant's perspective. It also, those touch points throughout the course of the year is certainly going to help with client retention, throughout, rather than that client that comes in November, December, January, and you're only speaking to them once. At least by generating even a quarterly invoice and doing quarterly updates, you've got more touch points with them, more discussions. They're going to feel more valued, and like I said, client retention is going to be much better.
I'm
I
loving that experience.
I need to run off, guys, now, but I will dip in and out during the day just to listen in, if that's okay. But just to reiterate, like, an amazing session with you guys, but like, what a day to put on, and why don't we do this more often? Do you know what I mean?
I think we've been scheduled in for August now, Craig. We've had some requests in. Can we do this after the 7th of August deadline? So you're not getting away too lightly.
Yeah. Well, let's work on it together. But you guys, I put on record the appreciation of, like, the fact of the positive impact that you've got. And I think today's cast list is as good as I've seen in my 2.5 years. And we'll leave you with a wonderful.
Craig, just before you go, you've just said in the chat that there's 500 sign-ups today. Is that good? Is that normally what you're seeing, or is that a bit high?
It's tracking ahead of last Friday, that's for sure. But I'll come back throughout the day and let you know what it is. As I say, I think people will think about it. They'll watch the video. I'd love people to really share that video. I'd love it to become accountant. What's the word when something, I'm not down with the kids, where something goes viral. So let's make it as viral as something can be, and get that video out there, because when Sam did the video the last time, the amount of people that got in touch with me and said, I just followed it. So accounting, tax agent, bookkeeping viral. I want that video. If we could just share it with our buddies, because my worry is the people that aren't engaging we know them in some way. We just need to tap them in the shoulder and say, there's a group here that's willing to help you if you just get in touch with them. And it's organic. It doesn't have to feel like you have to go to the biggest event in the world. You can check in for 30 minutes. You can have a chat. So let's make that as viral as possible. Lovely to see everybody. Thanks ever so much for doing this.
Joining us, Craig. See you soon.
I think I'm off now as well, guys. If you need me to come back on later, then I will, but I'll certainly be back at 4 o'clock. But thanks for having me on.
Do you want
Did you
to
have
just...
a question, Nick, before you go?
Do I have a question?
Paddy time?
Paddy time, now that HMRC are off. But it's up here. You guys know my thoughts, my feelings. You know, the slogan is accuracy takes time. It doesn't matter you know, how frequent your bookkeeping is. It could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly. But as you, Tom and Robyn, both know, my concern is much broader. It's that second cohort, the third cohort. We've already heard earlier in conversation that if clients aren't gonna comply, then we're disengaging them. Somebody's going to have to look after them. We're going to be under a lot of pressure. Those underrepresented, the 1 million in 3 years' time. For me, people know and are starting to know more what my concerns are. As Craig said, I'm very pro MTD. I have been from the outset. You know, I haven't got a medal for a reason for being the third accountant to submit a digital tax return for 24-25. But yeah, for me, I just feel like that filing deadline is going to be very tight. So hopefully there'll be some sort of soft landing equivalent for the second and third cohorts, but we shall see.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you for joining us. See you
No
soon.
worries. Cheers, guys.
So I have a bit of a question to kick us off now that we're a 4. In your experiences, what do you think have been the most popular aspects of MTD and the least popular aspects of MTD?
I'm happy to start that one. Popular wise for me has been how the vendors have mostly, so the software vendors, so we're talking all your bookkeeping software, etc., and practice management software and everything else, have mostly seen this as an opportunity to change the way for us and give us something new, right? Like that's my overarching kind of like positivity out of this, that we were given a deadline. We were okay. The one thing I'd criticize HMRC was moving that deadline, because I thought that caused even more headache for the vendors and everything else. But that's the world we're in. But I do see the positivity of the fact that they are giving us new tools to help us actually deliver this. As Nick was saying, like there's so much like work that's going to come our way. There's so much in the bookkeeping world, in the accounting world, in all the world. Like we're going to be inundated with work. We need to lean on the software vendors to give us some new ways to think about delivering this, like new ways to request information from clients, new ways to collaborate with clients, new ways to help us actually deliver our service. You know, in the UK, accountants and bookkeepers are amazing. We're so good at pivoting. We're so good at delivering services and having to bring it on. But we can only go so far with some of the archaic software we've been doing, archaic solutions we've been using in the past. And I just, my benefit or the most positive thing I'm seeing about this is just how vendors are taking this as a chance, as an opportunity to wow us and to make us, you know, obviously from them, they're trying to make us make buying decisions, right? So there's a little bit of that involved in it as well. But it's just so nice to see. It's so refreshing to see new approaches and new ways and new innovation that we're getting in the industry. So that should and will, I'm confident, will help us bring in new talent into the industry, bring people in who see it from a different way. So that's my positive. And Amy, do you want to go with your positive?
I think I'd have to say the multi-agent access being majorly positive. So bookkeepers who are not necessarily doing the self-assessment tax return or any tax returns can still do their bit to help. So I think that's been super positive, and hopefully that will also be something that will be transferred across other taxes as well. That would be great, wouldn't it?
We had that brought up this morning on Accountants Therapy, actually, and it's a good point for me to raise, as I said that we would, that multi-agent access is also useful in terms of what we might start seeing now is people that want to stay with an existing agent for their 25-26 tax return, but want to get onboarded with somebody for MTD services for 26-27 onwards, and that would not have been possible to do without that multi agent access as supporting agent. So if anyone is facing that where they're onboarding someone that doesn't want to hand over the full access to you yet because they need their old accountant to do the tax return before the 25-26, and you don't want to wait for the 25-26 tax return to be done by the previous accountant, then what you need to do is register as the supporting agent. So you go onto your ASA account and you use that digital link to send to your client to get that supporting agent access, and then you will be able to use the MTD services. So thank you for the reminder.
Cracking point there.
Because often I think we think about that supporting agent to be your bookkeepers, your ones that are doing the day-to-day rather than the year-to-year. But actually that supporting agent side of things is a little bit broader than that. I thought it was an interesting point I hadn't thought of before.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, if you do want to take someone else's
on. Yeah, exactly. So I'm sorry, I'm usually the one that goes, now let's talk about the negative things. So let's stay on brand. What do you think has been the least, so I'm not saying what do you think is the worst point of MTD. I want you to tell me what you think is the least popular aspect of MTD, the bit that is a roadblock for people.
Well, yeah, I think I was just going to say such a low threshold. You know, if we'd gone with the VAT threshold, I think perhaps this would have been a lot easier. So we're and sole traders, a vast, very super diverse bunch of people and landlords as well. And you think, if a landlord in London, one property, you could be in that first tranche. So they made it difficult for us, didn't they? And and it is the agents that have to pick up the pieces there, because you are taking over the mess.
It's when you talk to someone that's semi-retiring. I had one on Wednesday. He was over the MTD threshold. He's now in it for 3 years, even though he's only going to do maybe one job every 3 or 4 months as a favour to someone. He's still got to keep doing MTD, which is an absolute nightmare. But this then follows on to the point Aaron was making, in that the selection in software now meant that I could go, right, if that's your situation, we've got to look at one of these software solutions. Whereas 5 years ago, we'd have been very limited with that selection. And that is a huge benefit of MTD. Is I think there's 90 vendors now are listed on HMRC's recognised vendor list. And even then, I won't look at all 90, I'll probably look at 10. But of those 10, they're all so diverse. All of your clients can fit into one of those categories now for that vendor. And that, I'd love that. I love being able to look at that now with software.
You turn the negative into a positive.
Absolutely. I think you've got to now, haven't you? It's like with Kirsty and Natasha earlier, we were saying, you turn the negative into a positive. This is what HMRC has said MTD is. That's the law. So we're going to help you comply with the law, but let's turn it into a positive and utilise the software and give you more information. That's how everyone's got to look at it, isn't it? The positive side.
I've done the exact opposite. So just going to come in as devil's advocate. I've done the opposite and just said to my clients, yeah, I think it's rubbish. I think it's awful. And actually, that's been quite a good PR exercise for me. That so you don't have to do the positive spin. I think that it's one way of doing it. The other way is to just go, no, I hate it, but you still got to do it. And actually, both work, don't they? It depends on the person. The vast majority of my clients, when I've had a meeting with them, have open the meeting themselves without me saying anything, going, what the hell is this all about then? This is rubbish. And I've gone, well.
That's great, because then they're informed, aren't they? And ultimately that's
it's actually been a trust exercise. It's been quite nice to be able to build trust in that way, to go, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I like this, because I don't, but let's work together on it. And that's been quite successful for me. Aaron,
So my negative is going to be on what Amy's just said there, but kind of moving on. Amy's saying that it's too low, that first threshold, but actually I think the third cohort's too high, because it just gives us uncertainty going forward. If we'd know now what the next cohort's going to be, we could plan, right? We can understand and we can work together and we can find solutions and everything else. The fact that there's still that question mark on what happens if they're, not at that point, because we've still got that uncertainty of, well, when does everyone come into MTD? Like, when is that date that everybody put every single thing into? It doesn't matter if you got self-employed. We're going to move over to that MTD world. So we've got one software to use as accountants and bookkeepers to submit accounts and everything else. At the moment, we're going to have this whole divide of, well, here's our MTD essay self-assessment clients, and here's our non-MTD ones, and we're going to have to try and figure out which one and when do they cross over and all that uncertainty that goes with it, right? That's the bit that's really frustrating me. I think if we just had that plan of, right, here it is, and it doesn't matter what the dates are or what the thresholds are, it's here is your, all cards on the table. This is where at this date every client's going to be in this new MTD regime one way or another, right? That gives us something to work with, because at the moment it is very much a case of there is that uncertainty there, and that's been one from our point of view as a practice, is actually talking to the non-affected ones and having to spend time with them to go, look, I know you're hearing about this from John down the pub, or typically now ChatGPT, right, has told them that they've got to worry about it. But actually, you're not affected, and it's only if you have this criteria that you're affected, and it's that element there. Wouldn't it be nice if we just all knew now, when everyone's going to go into the MTD world, what that thing's going to be? Let's take away the elephant in the room of, at some point, I imagine quarterly means also quarterly payments. That's going to come into play at some point. I just wish we didn't have that uncertainty and we weren't waiting on it, and we didn't have that there. That's my only negative I have, is just that, we've got this bit to deal with what we're in now, but there's still that fear of, well, what's next? Like, when's that uncertainty going to arrive?
It's hard explaining to clients, isn't it? We don't know that answer, isn't it? I mean, they look to you for trust, and they look to you for the answers. Yeah, and you'll go, don't know, it's down to HMRC, and they said they weren't going to do quarterly payments, but we all have a suspicion that they will, and then it's in the budget that they're going to consult on it in early 2026. And I've had clients already going, you said early 2026, well, have they started it yet? And it's, I don't know, I haven't seen anything, but I'll look. And yeah, it's like Sam in the chat, anxiety is fear of the unknown, and that is exactly what everyone's going through. And I've never considered that view, Aaron, actually, that the 20k is not low enough. I've never really looked at that, and I think it's a great angle. I think that's really insightful.
I think so too. I think you may have found the one topic we have not covered in accounting therapy already. How is that possible?
That's what I'm here for.
Get yourself in with us. I think maybe that's something that we're all finding, is that finding one process flow is really difficult. And if we could find that magic one process flow, then things would be easier. And yeah, you've touched on something there. Well, maybe that leads nicely into something that we're seeing a few of our members messaging on MTD therapy at the moment, asking us to really talk to professional bodies. So Amy, that's you, about how you feel about the pressure that's put on industry, and whether you're seeing there be worry and anxiety around the deadlines, the workflow, the pressure that industry is under. So from your point of view for bookkeepers, are you seeing that for bookkeepers, or not so bad?
I think our bookkeepers can take it. I think MTD hasn't been as big an issue as I think things like the move to FCA supervision, the tax advisor registration, ACSPs, digital ID, all that kind of stuff. I think that has actually been harder. MTD, as I said before, is very much in their wheelhouse already, isn't it? They're already, they work very well with their clients. They love being, providing that real-time data. They're already having those like weekly, daily, at least conversations. So it's not as much of a challenge. And I think if anything, it just raises the profile of the value of bookkeeping and bookkeepers. And hopefully, maybe it will, open some eyes in the rest of the accounting profession as well. We can all be more bookkeeper. But things like tax advisor registration, that's another thing that, that causes anxiety. We don't really know exactly what that's looking like. I know it's now open, isn't it, registration? But if you've got an ASA account, you just wait. You wait to hear, but who are the responsible persons you're going to have to start putting through a fit and proper? That feels a bit kind of overstretchy, I think. Feels a bit awkward. And FCA, we are apparently looking at a 3-year transition to FCA supervision after it gets royal assent. That's anticipated for next May. So this looks like a really long process, and they don't know how they're going to design the system yet. And the big question is, how much is it going to cost? So
how do you guys cope with that at the ICB though, Amy? Because like we're one step away from HMRC. You've got that direct link with HMRC. How are you explaining to your members we're still waiting on HMRC as well. How do you get that message across?
Well, exactly the same way, I guess, bookkeepers talk to their clients. So we don't tend to say, this is really awful, we don't like it, but we're just going to have to live with it. I think there's always a positive in it, in anything, isn't there, really? But we like to think that this is, yes, it's greater scrutiny on the profession. It's never been harder to be in this profession, but actually it's recognition at the same time. And that's why we're all involved in things like AML checking, not because all of the small businesses are committing money laundering, but because that role is so important. We are absolutely defending the economy. So I think there's always something good to come of it. And, the answer is openness, transparency, collaboration, isn't it? And I think that is actually another positive out of making tax digital is when we get past that point of saying, oh, this is very top down and it's us and them, and HMRC has foisted this upon us. And actually we meet the real people like you've done in this event. You meet the people who are behind it and you put that human face on it. And then we can all say, oh, actually, yeah, this is a challenge for all of us and we can do it together. So it's just communication. And yeah, we've got tons and tons of meetings with the FCA communicating.
Can I just say though on that point about you there, Amy, saying that the bookkeepers are ready for this and everything else? I think that's mainly because how well ICB have tackled MTD. Like you being a face of it, you going on stage and your amazing team, always putting content together, always supporting everything else. Not all institutes are equal. And I have definitely seen the other side of things, and there is a lot more uncertainty and feeling like they're not being supported with other institutes. So I think, yeah, that question of how institutes are doing, I think is very very one-sided when it comes to ICB, because they are doing a fantastic job and they are really supporting their members, and the members know that and the members see that support there. I don't think that's the same for every institute that's out there.
Well, that's made my day. Thank you so much, Everard. I mean, we've got a lot of advantages. We're a small organisation. We're relatively young. We're 30 this year. I'm very proud of it. But, you put that alongside organisations that have been around for hundreds of years. They've got many more staff than we have. And all of these like digitisation things really do play well in the hands of the smaller organisations. I mean, we've got a huge advantage. I think bookkeepers have that same advantage. They're so on top of tech. They're so on top of AI because they are small, they're nimble, they really can. I think we just try to mirror that in what we do.
I think Accountex was testament to that, wasn't it? Every time I tried to walk past to catch you, Amy, there was a queue of people at the ICB stand trying to talk to all the different members of the ICB, and you had the bookkeeping area and the bookkeeper stage. I mean, you guys are smashing it, aren't you, at that part of Accountex? It was brilliant. So yeah, it's good that there is that support, and Kirsty was saying that in the first session this morning, is the support the ICB's given. It's fantastic, and I think it's great that the PBs are getting, some of them better than others. I totally agree with that, Aaron, but it's good that we are getting some support.
I think we've learned in this process, sorry, Amy, I think we've learned in this process that professional bodies can't necessarily throw absolutely everything at one subject at a time, because often there's a stretch in the resources that are available, i.e. the people that are responsible for it. And that's something that Lindsey was saying earlier from the ICAEW, that she is a lead on MTD, but she's also a lead on other number of topics, and therefore you're never going to be able to cover absolutely everything in all the detail that you would like to if you're just one individual splitting your time between different things. We've seen that the ATT particularly have been amazing from the content that they're putting out there. Most of the professional bodies have had some support, but again, it comes down to that being stretched. Is it that you made a strategic decision to look at MTD, or was it that you had the resource there to do it?
It's because we're passionate. And we really believe in what we're doing. We really believe in what bookkeepers are doing. But I think a large part of it is that conversation on that webinar, whenever it was, Taxcalc webinar, thousands of people, and I was like, whoa. The profession needs to understand the purpose of bookkeepers better. And what I wanted to say was just that we have got thousands of bookkeepers who you can hire. They'll work freelance if they've got capacity. The problem is most bookkeepers are super duper busy because they're worth their weight in gold. But if you are looking for an amazing bookkeeper, ICB is where to go. And we've got a directory on our website. You can post free vacancies, and we're registering thousands of people every year. And So we'll make more of them.
That's so well timed, because this morning we even had a question on MTD therapy asking, how can I find a local bookkeeper? What's the best way to find someone? So you've just answered that one nicely. And just a little bit of inside information on accountants therapy. We're soon to launch a bookkeepers therapy. So a little site, as you can see, we have plenty of side groups already, but we really wanted to acknowledge this the space for bookkeepers in particular would be good within our community. So that will be launching very, very soon. And again, anybody listening now that isn't already in therapy is very welcome to join us. We have a free trial available on our website for anyone that just wants to come and see what we're about and what kind of support we can give in addition to your professional body, because we would always tell you that your professional body is a really great place to make sure that you go to. We're not in opposition to the professional bodies. We're trying to work really closely with everybody, as is our ethos, to bring people together, not in competition. So there you go. Oh, this is a nice reaction. Thank you, Amy. We were excited for it too.
Absolutely. Collaboration, not competition. I'm just trying to read what all the little things are.
So we have
there's so many now.
MTD therapy, social therapy, events therapy, ACSP therapy, tech therapy. I can't see this from here either. Recruitment therapy.
Our favourite one, neurospicy focus.
So that one's brilliant because it goes very, very quiet, and then all of a sudden loads and loads and loads of conversation, usually about cutlery. So I don't know if anybody has watched any of our podcasts. One of our stock questions is, do you ever look at cutlery and go, absolutely not? That's how we decide whether someone should proceed straight to the neurospicy group for cutlery focus discussion. We have, I can't see it from here. My screen is absolutely
practice
tiny.
and process, MTD together, tax therapy, training therapy, AAT therapy. We've got ICAEW therapy. We've got
you don't need ICB therapy, hopefully.
Well, I think we need to set up ICB therapy. And Aaron, you'll be pleased to see that we have got QuickBooks therapy as well, which has been very popular recently. We're trying not to do too many all in one go, but it's good to see that there's been quite a few ICB members joining our therapy group recently. So I think I might have to get onto the logo this evening. That might be my job for tonight. When I'm clearly just sat rewatching these videos later on tonight, I'll do that tonight. I'll get the logo done.
You'll have to join us. That's my next campaign.
Well, as long as it's just, it's a chat about group ICB things. It's not because we need therapy in the same way we need therapy because of MTD or
that's a really good. So sorry to anyone joining in for MTD focused discussion. I am going to answer that question from the accountants therapy point of view. No, absolutely. So all of our subgroups and our community in general, you come in on the MTD therapy group. That's because that was the first one that I set up, and so you can't change that these days. You are then able to navigate to all or any of the groups that you fancy. You go in, you can come out of any of the other ones that you're not interested in, and you just sit where you want to sit, and you can come in and out of all the different rooms if you like, as you like. Some of them are busier than others, so I mean that's one of the feedback we sometimes get is that, wow, this is really busy, but if you're not liking the busyness, please just take yourself out of the busy room that you don't want to be in and sit in one that's a bit quieter and go from there. So yeah, absolutely, we can.
Yeah, the professional body ones are quite interesting because I think, Robyn, we found a lot of us didn't realise just how accessible the PBs were to us as members. And I'm in the AAT therapy, and there's a gentleman in there called Johnny from the AAT who said, look, if you guys aren't happy with something you've seen coming out of HMRC, rather than writing to us individually, do a collective letter and we'll look into it. So we do that in the chat. We have a few people that are students that want just a bit of advice, what do we do here with these exams, and just a bit of that community spirit inside of a community. And there's already calls in the chat for Aaron to join the QuickBooks therapy. We actually share your videos in QuickBooks therapy because Karen in particular shared one only a couple of days ago because you put a brilliant video out about QuickBooks. So I think you'd be joining a bit of a celebrity in there, to be honest. So we might have to protect you a little bit.
Robyn sold it for me, don't worry. She's done the hard sell. I'm in.
So should we go back to MTD discussion on our marathon? So I really enjoyed some of the conversation we had earlier about the misinformation that's out there. So I'm going to re-ask that question. What's the worst bit of misinformation that you've seen out in the wild? What would you like to tackle in terms of misinformation?
Just following on from the whole webinar that I keep talking about, this idea that this is something that would convince us all to retire, that makes me so sad and cross. This is, just don't do that. Keep doing great work. And but yeah, I love technology and I love change, so probably it's easier for me to say that. But that makes me really sad when someone says I can't handle it.
We've seen a lot of people though feeling that way. We've had some genuine mental health crisis from MTD in our experience, but I think maybe that's where therapy is great, right? Is that sometimes that feeling of feeling like you can't cope with the change, the technology, whatever is new, is because you're alone doing it. Well, as soon as you can find people to help you, and I don't just mean therapy there, we've seen excellent other groups. Natasha heads up another amazing community. The professional bodies themselves often have amazing communities. I know that's true of the ICB, that just find people to bounce those negative thoughts off so that you can feel better about it. I think you're right. That's a nice bit of misinformation that you can't do it because you're feeling isolated. You don't need to feel isolated anymore.
I think Aaron and I are a few years older than you guys, but do you remember, Aaron, when IXBRL came in?
Yeah.
How many? Do you remember we used to have accountants that would come into our office and say, I don't want to IXBRL. Can I pay you to do it for me? And with RTI coming in for payroll, there was another band of accountants and bookkeepers and payroll advisors that retired. We are seeing it's the same with every big change, isn't it? I'm sure 30 years ago, when you couldn't drop your envelope in through the letterbox to HMRC's office, I think it's just a phase, isn't it? We go through these phases. For me, the worrying thing is seeing sole traders say, I can't deal with this extra admin. This is the point I'm going to have to get out. That's the sad bit for me. I really don't like that bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Little known fact though, since you mentioned ages, Aaron and I share a birthday.
We do.
Do you?
The exact date.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, crikey.
Can you guess it? Can anyone guess it in the chat?
If somebody
Kirsty will be able to.
The thing is, I want to say, if anyone can guess it, they can win an accountant's therapy hat. But I feel like if you Google it, surely your birth date's going to be out there somewhere. I don't know. Okay. Frankie's guess 7th of August.
7th of August 2026. No, that's
Kirsty's wrong.
Very good. So can you keep an eye? We'll do that. If anyone can guess their birthday correctly, we'll do an MTD.
Your birthday, 24th of February. I say this because Kirsty's got a very similar birthday.
Oh no, don't give them clues. I've just offered a prize.
Oh, sorry.
Really spot 365 guesses.
My misinformation that I want to get out there is I want to chuck myself under a bus because I'm one of the problems. So I keep saying this phrase, there's not enough meat on the bone. And I don't mean that in terms of, and this is the fees, right, of MTD as a service professional, as trying to deliver this to our clients. And as bookkeepers and accountants, we're trying to figure out, how much is going to be available to us, and all this promised work we've been promised by by HMRC, etc., etc. And I'm one of the ones who keeps going on about, well, there's not enough meat on the bone, or at least what I'm trying to say is there's not much meat on the bone. And what the misinformation I want to try and get absolutely right there is that it's not that I'm saying that we shouldn't be doing MTD. We just got to be really, really careful about it. We've got to make sure we do this in the right way. We've got to make sure we're putting the right resources in. We've got to make sure we're getting the right staff members on. And what the reason I'm keep bringing this up is because I keep seeing, like Tom was talking about there, there's a lot of accountants who are just saying, I don't want to do this, or I'm just not going to be involved, or I'm going to close the doors, or whatever it's going to be, right? Or they're just completely ignoring the MTD side because there's not enough meat on the bone, etc., in terms of fees. But actually, it's an amazing opportunity to train your junior staff. It's an amazing opportunity to bring those people in and give them more client contact than probably they've had up until their career to date, right? This is that opportunity where we can bring people through in, and we can have that opportunity to show that actually having regular contact with clients is a massive benefit, and we're going to see better relationships with clients. They're going to be stickier, all that benefits that come from it, right? And I'm one of the problems who keeps shouting, there's not enough meat on the bone, we can't do X, Y, Z, blah blah blah. But I don't mean it that we shouldn't be doing it. I mean it we have to make sure that we're doing it right. And Vinny agrees, as Vinny's just been mentioned in the chat. So Vinny agrees.
Love that.
Such a good
It's
point.
good that you can.
Sorry, everyone was just posting about your birthday or my birthday. Yeah, good point.
There we go. Well, guys, I can't believe that we are at time now. We have to break away now to get ourselves ready for MTD therapy or MTD together, part 4, which is a portion of time that we spend with our accountants therapy members talking through MTD. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're in the afternoon now, halfway through. Before you go, do you have anything that you want to say, any closing words? What we've been asking people to do is maybe tell us your next step in terms of MTD, but in whatever capacity you want to answer that question with, or any bits of advice for anybody, any closing words. Amy, do you want to go first?
Yes, well, just to say congratulations for coming on this webinar and well done for getting this far. And there's always a positive in anything, and it's not for quarterly updates, it's for touch points, for conversations. It's even more than that. And yeah, if you do need a helping hand, maybe hire a bookkeeper. And my next stage, I think, is very much working with accounting firms and saying, if you're facing client churn, team churn, it might be because you've hired would-be proto accountants to do bookkeeping work. So even if bookkeeping gets super automated, the bookkeepers are the ones that you want, holding the reins on the technology. Bookkeepers sit on top of the data layer of small businesses in the UK. So work with bookkeepers, employ bookkeepers, hire bookkeepers, train bookkeepers, and certify them, because it is a super valuable part of accountancy.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us. Aaron, for you.
My final word of advice for everyone is there are annoying people like me who are out there sitting on their ivory tower, going into the MTD betas, alphas, and thinking we've got this all done, and we've gone out and sent all this information to clients. We've done all these glossy videos. We've like blah, 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 blah. And then 2 weeks before MTD goes live, the software I was putting all of my eggs into pulled their solution, right? So my advice is, doesn't matter how prepared we all are, we're all in the same boat. We are all here together. And one thing that I know accountants and bookkeepers are amazing at is being agile. And we just got to continue that agile stretch. We're going to get loads more changes coming our way. There's more to come. Like it's never going to stop. We're never going to have a nice calm water. We're always going to be battling against some sort of tide from somewhere. But we're amazing at doing that. And I think, you guys have shown as a community that there are people out there who can support one another. Problem shared is a problem halved, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we've got this. We're going to absolutely smash it. And I do believe that we're going to get our Januaries back thanks to it. So it's got to be a win for everyone.
Do you know what, Aaron? I'll tell you what. Let's get a couple of years down the line. We'll organise a party in January to prove the point that accountants and bookkeepers and tax advisors can now take a day off in January.
Wait, I thought that's the only month of the year I work. What, I can't have the entire.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop dissing the tax advisors because you do rock up like Santa Claus every year, claim all the credit for the bookkeepers and accountants, and then disappear again.
Sorry, I took my professional exams in tax.
What a lovely way to end the morning session.
Great. Bit of shade between us. That's good. There we go.
That chat about collaboration.
Yeah, thank you both so much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
And happy bank holiday weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Enjoy the sunshine. Now, what we're going to do in terms of this Zoom is this Zoom will continue running, but I'm going to have a holding screen up. So if there is anybody listening that would like to join us in the other Zoom that we will be running as a breakout room session, so one camera on session where we talk to each other in small breakout rooms about what we're doing over MTD, then you can join us on free trial, where you can still join us for this session if you're on a free trial. If you go to accountantstherapy.co.uk, join now, I've popped that into the chat, or just go to accountantstherapy.co.uk and there are buttons on the front page directing you to how to sign up, and I can onboard you so that we can get you into this meeting now. If you have not already had enough MTD discussion. Now, if you have not already had enough MTD discussion, but don't want to join us for this little session we're going to do for the next hour, we will be back again at 2 o'clock for exactly the same as we've been doing this morning. So we have some more software, some more professional bodies, and some more people in practice to run through everything MTD. If there are any specific questions you'd like us to throw at our guests, please pop them over to Tom and I. And otherwise, enjoy your lunch and wee breaks, etc. Okay.
Well done, a round of applause for you. Well done.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.